from 7:30 a.m. every morning.
OTB Sports Radio. OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Yes, it is, and it's 7:30 on this Thursday morning. A very good morning to you. Nice, fresh, breezy autumn morning out there. Tommy Rooney, how are you getting on?
Good morning, Adrian.
You've enjoyed your...
How are we?
Thursday morning, I presume?
I have. It's been great. It's up
Really?
at 5 a.m.
You were up at 5 a.m?
Yeah.
That's just a regular day in the life of Tommy Rooney, I guess.
Breakfast producer, yeah. What time did you breeze up at?
I had a great sleep last night.
Did you?
I know this is what the viewers and listeners want to know about. Went to bed at 8 o'clock last night.
Wow.
I was absolutely shattered.
So you didn't stay up for Dublin Murders?
I did not stay up for Dublin Murders. I didn't stay up for anything. There was nothing keeping me awake last night. I've been at the roadshow on Tuesday night at the Borgosh Energy Theatre. Amazing night. And it'll be coming your way this evening, Tommy, as our viewers know. Full, live, exclusive.
I'm looking forward to it.
Mostly unedited.
Okay. Uncut?
Uncut, yeah. Relatively
Did it live up to the Roy Keane and Gary Neville roadshow?
Absolutely.
The Borgosh Energy Theatre a few weeks ago?
It's difficult to think that anything will ever sort of reach those. I mean, will we call them heights? I'm really not sure if that's the correct terminology around it. But there was some great stuff. McIlroy was there, World Cup winning legend. Bobby Skinstad was there, World Cup winning legend.
Wow.
Not in the matchday squad, but World Cup winning legend. It's fine. Brandon Driscoll was there, Irish rugby legend.
Wow.
Keith Wood was there, Irish rugby legend.
Really?
Nathan Murphy was there.
You had a few others there as well.
Donny O'Reilly was there from the Coronas. His story about drunk texting Joe Schmidt might have been the story of the night.
Yeah, it was very funny. We played it last night.
And Paul Howard was there, the author of Rossa Carl Kelly, amongst many other things. Sensational night. I didn't plan to give it the big sell here, Tom.
You were there as well, I hear.
Led me in.
You're the Fred Cook of Off the Ball.
Oh, I mean, how do I take that?
If anyone hasn't been to a roadshow, Adrian is the guy who goes out and warms up the audience.
How do I take the Fred Cook comparison, is what I'm asking you.
I'm not sure.
Is that a compliment?
Yeah, it is. Like, Fred did the Late Late Show for years, didn't he?
I mean, some people are saying Tommy Tiernan, but I mean, if you want to go down the Fred Cook route, that's...
Okay. David McSavage?
I'd take that, yeah.
Take it all.
Yeah. Funny enough, the little bit of fluffing that I was doing beforehand, I got a round of applause for one of my gags.
Excuse me. Did you?
Yeah.
Wow.
It wasn't even a planned gag. It wasn't actually even really a gag. I just said it coincided with, so the roadshow started at about 7:45. Obviously on Tuesday night, there was also a small matter of a Republic of Ireland key Euro qualifier kicking off at 7:45.
So you're going to tell us the gag here, are you?
And I said to the 2,500 people in the audience before we went out, I said, listen, well done. You've made the right choice. You're here tonight. The game is going to be shit. Well done. And I got a round of applause.
Okay.
I'd like some other planned gags that didn't get a round of applause, but I mean, you know, trickle of laughter.
I think we're showing
which
them
I'm all right with.
A little too much of the bacon, how it's made, and a little bit of too much feta sausage.
It's all right. That's what we do around here. So, 2 days, 3 hours, 41 minutes and 10 seconds, Tommy, to...
Brexit.
I mean, possibly. You might be right. I think Boris is planning for a little bit longer than that. Until New Zealand and Ireland kick off in Tokyo.
I can't wait for it.
I'm buzzing for it.
I can't wait. I've been saying for weeks that we're going to get New Zealand, and I'm not worried about how the pool stage.
What do you mean we're going to get them? We have them.
We're going to take them. What did Gav say? We're going to get through Russia. We're going to get through Samoa. We're going to take New Zealand.
Do you know the way? Whoever runs the Off the Ball's social media accounts sometimes like send out a quote or something that happens on the show?
What happened?
I really wish they hadn't done this.
What happened?
Who's out there this morning that we need to give out to? I got a round of applause for one of my gags. Like when you put it out like that, it doesn't look good.
Well done, Artie.
It makes me look like an egomaniac, which I mean might be true, but I don't want to look like one.
Look it.
You think we're going to do them?
I do.
Right.
Well, no, look, I don't think we're going to do them.
Explain yourself, Tommy Rooney.
I think we've got a serious chance.
Yeah.
I just haven't been worried by the performances in the pool stages. Like, we've come through unscathed without many injuries. We've lost Aki, fair enough, but Henshaw is back. We still have Sexton, we still have Murray. We have our front eight. I think we're in great shape.
We have players. This is what you're saying.
No, but like, we were savaged in 2015 by injuries going into that Argentina game, and it was a shadow team that lost in that quarter-final. I just think we're in a good place.
There are three possible outcomes. One, a very narrow Irish win.
Okay.
Two, a very narrow New Zealand win. Or number three, we get absolutely savaged by New Zealand.
You're going out on a limb here, Adrian. What about a draw?
Not predicting a draw.
What happens if there's a draw in World Rugby? Is it just that's it, the two are left out?
Go to yeah, that's right. Yeah,
sorry, that's it.
Both of you go out now.
Yeah.
That would be consistent. That's what I predict.
Okay.
And I wouldn't be ruling out the third one.
You weren't buying Mike McCarthy yesterday morning.
Well, I heard a good bit of Mike, and mostly it was let's get Devin Toner back in the team.
Yeah, Dave was laughing. I could see Dave laughing when he asked him, if it's a wet day, Ireland are going to win.
Yeah.
21-18. What was the dry day, Mark? Mike? 27-21 to Ireland.
It took him a while to get there as well.
Yeah, it did, yeah. What do you think is going to happen? You think it's going to be a New Zealand win?
I honestly could see any one of those three possibilities happen. I mean, predicting after that is...
Well, it is sport. Like, someone has to win.
Yeah. Like, if we weren't Irish, you'd be saying... Any right-minded person is saying New Zealand are going to win this game.
Well, I am Irish, and I even believed we were going to beat Switzerland the other night in about an hour before kick-off, so...
Tommy, you see, you're setting your pedigree now.
I'm a believer.
Pedigree high. The team, will we give the team? The team is going to be officially named.
We don't know the team yet.
Well, the team that's been named in a lot of the newspapers this morning.
If I was Joe Schmidt, I would not be allowing any leaks before the New Zealand game.
Well, it's
and
not
if
leaks,
I did allow any leaks, or if I did name my team, I'd be changing the matchday squad beforehand. Can they do that in rugby?
I mean, that's why you got your GA background going on. The team itself is going to be named at 8 o'clock this morning. We're going to bring the live press conference of that, but it's in all the newspapers this morning, as it's been for every game up to this point. Seems to be some agreement between those who released the team and the newspapers that they can have it of a morning. So here you're going to get it now at coming up at 20 to 8 on this Thursday morning on OTB AM. At full back is the tried and tested Rob Kearney in this Ireland team to play New Zealand on Saturday. On the wings are going to be Keith Earls and Jacob Stockdale. It's Gary Ringrose joining Robbie Henshaw in the centre. Obviously the absence of Bundy Aki there. So Johnny Sexton and Conor Murray will become the all-time record partnership in the halfbacks as well, surpassing the O'Gara-Stringer combination with their 56th partnership this Saturday. So that obviously you will see there that Jordan Larmour does not feature in the matchday 15 at least. Up front, Cian Healy, Rory Besson, Tyke Furlong, as you'd imagine, in the front row. Ian Henderson and James Ryan combined in the second row, and then a lot of interest, of course, in who would be selected in the back row, and it is Peter O'Mahony who gets the nod over Tyke Byrne alongside Josh van der Flower and CJ Stander. So that's the 15 that's been named. The replacements, as of going to print last night in all the newspapers, were to be confirmed, but you can probably guess at a bunch of those. We're going to get the full confirmed team for you. It's the full live press conference coming your way from Tokyo at 8 a.m. here on OTB AM. Eoin Sheahan is in position and ready to bring us all of that from 8 o'clock. We'll have more reaction as well over the course of the morning, but that's the team. Conservative.
Very Joe Schmidt team, but you can't blame him. Like, he has everybody available to him. He's going to pick, like, the question all week was, is Jordan Larmour going to start? It's not going to happen. I'm kind of disappointed.
Yeah, no, he'll probably be in the match day at 23, and he's a great option to be able to bring in, but I do understand some of Joe Schmidt's thinking about, like, putting Kearney at fullback. Like, going into the World Cup, we weren't sure who the backup to Kearney even was. Like, so either this was like some sort of an unbelievable master plan from Schmidt, who knew that Larmour was going to be that guy and who knew that he would be brilliant in that position. I don't believe that Schmidt had anything else in mind other than, in these key games, starting Kearney.
Yeah.
Like, particularly against a team like New Zealand that, like, we'll talk to Quinny about it a bit later on, but a team that can score tries from their own 22. Like, we saw Keith Earls outrun Larmour in one of the games. The Japan potential game. Bonus point try at the end.
Which is a massive moment.
Yeah. So, like, he's pacey as hell, obviously, and he's tricky. He's like a in-out runner, keeps, obviously, defence is guessing. But I think for this game, Schmidt is like, I mean, I would love to have some of that, but what I need to have is somebody that I can be absolutely certain of under the high ball. Yeah,
like, you were comparing this team with the team that bet the All Blacks 11 months ago, and it's very similar in ways. But part of me feels that little bit of magic is going to be needed. But sure, there you go. Last 30 minutes, if he's there, if he's on the 23, Who else do we think is going to be in the 23? Because the replacements are obviously so important.
Carberry will be there because of his versatility, obviously. I'm sure Ty Byrne will be there.
Like Farrell doesn't make the cut?
No, probably not.
So it's like
it'll be McGrath, Carberry and Larmour, you'd assume.
Ty Byrne.
Yeah. Unless Larmour or Farrell is probably an option, but I guess Larmour's got a bit of that. Like, Farrell is probably a player who would be close to starting, but if he's not in the 15, probably for the versatility, you need somebody else. So, yeah, there are a lot of similarities from the team to beat New Zealand last year, and there would have been more only for, obviously, suspensions this time and injuries the last time. So, from that 16-9 win at the Aviva, Henshaw for Aki, Murray for Marmion, he would have started anyway if he'd have been fit at the time, and Henderson for Devon Toner, who Henderson did come on, I think, for Toner at about the 60-minute mark in that game.
So we're saying it's a stronger 15 this time around?
Well, you can't argue with, it's 100%, like, you can't argue with the Murray for Marmion thing. It's difficult now to argue with the Henderson Toner thing. Like, we'll only know the true answer to that after Saturday.
And the All Blacks team was named overnight as well.
Yeah.
So, like, you go through a couple of
interesting selections there as well, Anton Leonard-Brown coming into the midfield being one of them, and an incredible player. Needless to say, like, you look at these, he's a guy with 40 caps, right? I'd say if you say to most people who's Anton Leonard-Brown, they go, who are you talking about? Guy with 40 All Black caps, half a sub, half as, there's the team for you, half a sub, half off the bench, but an incredible player. Has played Ireland twice, 1 win, 1 loss.
Yeah, like it struck me kind of looking at the team this morning that there's obviously Reid and there's Brodie Retallick with their plus 100 caps, but there are a number of players who are even around 10 caps or even lower. Sever Reid only has 5 caps.
That front row particularly is
Jordy Barrett,
international rugby wise rookie.
Yeah, but like they're All Blacks. They're All Blacks for a reason. It doesn't really matter if they have only 10 caps. Like Jordy Barrett could change the game at the weekend.
I hear you.
What else is coming up on the show this morning?
Somebody, before we do that, has been in touch, says the only thing that I'm ruling out is Ireland thrashing the All Blacks. Thanks for that. That's pretty much what I'm saying.
That is what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's it. Right, here's what's coming up. Nearly 7:45 on this Thursday morning. Delighted to have you along with us. A little bit of a flavour of what's happening. Myself and Tommy are going to pick you through the back pages of this morning's newspapers in just a couple of minutes' time. We're going to have that live press conference for you from Tokyo. Joe Schmidt is going to confirm his 15 and indeed his 23 for the New Zealand Rugby World Cup quarter-final on Saturday. That'll be from 8 a.m. We're going to talk All Blacks as well. We're going to have Alan Quinlan on the show to give all his reaction to that team naming it, to look ahead to the game as well. Might get a word too on England, who, by the way, have dropped forward for the game. Farrell goes to 10 in a few switches for them, so interesting stuff from Eddie Jones. Keeps the Aussies guessing, as always. Premier League chat at about 10 to 9. Phil Thompson, it's obviously just a one-stop shop of games this weekend, in that it's Old Trafford on Sunday at 4:30 as United take on rampant Liverpool. So does Phil think it's going to be anything other than a Liverpool win? I think you already know the answer to that. We might get his thoughts on a few other things coming your way at around about 9 o'clock. Risteards Rugger thing, the very latest episode of that. The guy who's normally sitting in this seat is the dude who's been sent up this time around, and if you haven't seen it already, do stay tuned for it. It's worth watching. Just after 9 o'clock, it's Richard Cooper does McIlroy and Matty Williams. We're going to have our Japan Dispatch. I think that's chat with Eoin Sheahan. It is. That's what we're calling that. At about 9:10, and the sports news end of the company Phil Egan at around 9:20. So that's it. Time for the newspapers. 7:45, you are watching OTB AM. It's the Sports Breakfast Show from Off the Ball. I'm going to start off with the Irish Times here, and needless to say, they've got the team to play New Zealand last night, and Gerry Thornley has his reflections on that selection there, as well as an interview. There's been a pooled interview with Keith Earls. Older and wiser, Earls learns to channel his nervous energy. It's the transformation of Keith Earls over the last 4 years from a guy who used to be, he said he was violently ill, was the expression that he used in the lead up to the France game at the Rugby World Cup 2015, and he said that the passing of Anthony Foley has helped him get some perspective, but that he'd actually pre that started to understand that this wasn't something that he could continue. Like, being in that state for the week in the lead into a game wasn't helping him, wasn't helping the team. So I suppose there's a bit of sort of controlling the controllables, as the old expression goes. But Keith Earls, like, difficult to argue that he's anything but than in the form of his life, so it's working for him. Yeah, and he's in his 30s, like. But like, is that just the maturity that comes, or is he working specifically with people to develop that side of his? I think he's done a bit of probably both, but It can go either way, right? Like towards the end of your career, well, I'm not saying it's towards the end of his career, but coming into the autumn of your career, you can sort of get frozen by the idea that there's not much left in this thing, or you can have the mature reflection of, like, I've been there and done it, and like he says himself, if we get beaten on Saturday, I'm going to go home to my family, everybody's healthy. If that's the worst case scenario, it's not all that bad. And I think that's a brilliant way of thinking about it.
Yeah, like when you're in a dressing room with people, like, people approach games in different ways. Some lads love chatting in dressing rooms, some lads love booming the music, some guys have their headphones on, don't talk to anybody. So, like, if that works for Keith Earls, that works for Keith Earls. It took him a while to find it. Like, in Paul O'Connell's autobiography, he talks about how he used to eat himself alive, and Caroline Curd took him aside and said, you just can't go on like this, like, it's restricting your performances. And fear was what drove Paul O'Connell for so long, but I'm not sure if Paul O'Connell passed on that advice to somebody else now.
Well, yeah. What's it like in the Meath Hill dressing room?
It's different personality.
What's Tommy Rooney doing to get himself up for the game?
I'm quiet enough in the dressing room.
Are you? Is that because you're nervous?
No, I don't get nervous anymore. Much like Keith Earls, I've matured.
Right.
I've kind of calmed down. I used to get really wound.
You get on thumping lads and stuff?
No.
Put the fear of God in anyone?
I've been nearly starting little arguments at home, my brothers and sisters and Mum. I think they copped onto it about 2 years ago. Like, he's just winding us up, just so he can get wound up for the game himself. I've stopped that now. That's
good, Tommy. That's not to be picking fights with your family is that would probably not be a bad thing.
They're only little arguments. That probably came from nerves. I don't know what that was, but yeah, different lads in different dressing rooms all the time. I've the star here, Magic Genie. They're starting to build up to Liverpool, Manchester United, or Manchester United, Liverpool this weekend in Old Trafford. Sadio Mane has revealed how Gini Wijnaldum diffused the row between himself and Mo Salah. That looked like it was kicking off at the start of the season. They also have mixed boys maybe facing Northern exposure. So while Mick McCarthy is talking up the fact that his underdogs can get a result against Denmark, it's looking likely that we might be heading into a playoff. If we can't get the win. So Bosnia, Slovakia, Wales, Northern Ireland are all in the mix for that playoff as well. And then they got the Irish team news that's embargoed. There's Carney and O'Mahony to return. And also in the corner here, I think you might get into it, John Duggan a little later, Brooks, Koepka, Rory McIlroy is not my rival. Brooks has aimed a swipe at Rory McIlroy, saying he hasn't won a major in 5 years.
It's fair enough. He's right.
Probably is fair.
The Salah Mane Salah Wijnaldum situation.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to me. In the explaining of it makes no sense to me whatsoever. They went back in the dressing room after the Burnley game. They'd beaten Burnley 3-0. They went back in the dressing room after. Mane, through a strap coming off the pitch, was like, "Oh, why didn't you put me in for that goal?" Got subbed off, and then he was pissed about that. They got back in the dressing room. Wijnaldum went over to him at full time and went over to Salah and went, "Oh, why do you hate Mane so much?" or something like this. Everybody broke down laughing. It's like the end of an episode of Peppa Pig.
It really does sound like that. That's a really good description. Yeah. It's so
like, they frequently don't make any sense. Like, there's something going on in Peppa Pig that's a bit complex.
Yeah.
Suddenly somebody makes a stupid joke that doesn't make any sense. Everybody rolls around laughing and the programme's over.
Are you watching a lot of Peppa Pig these days?
Too much.
Yeah. I can tell that. Like, it's childish. It's clutching at straws. Like, there's nothing going wrong in that Liverpool dressing room. Like, they're top of the world at the minute.
But they might hate each other, and there's a lot of evidence of that on the pitch that they do.
But that happens though, doesn't it?
It's grand. Yeah.
It happens in teams. Like, can you be professional enough to get over
and
it?
then, like, we've seen before with high-profile, strike partnerships, Sheahan and Owen, that, they just get on with it afterwards, Tommy. They don't make an issue about it. Everybody gets on with life and they become adults.
Pick their moments.
The Irish Independent this morning, Joe goes with the tried and tested, is the line here from Rory O'Connor. Schmidt recalls Carney, Ringrose and O'Mahony to face the All Blacks in the quarter-final. A brilliant picture there as well of the Irish cyclist Shannon McCurley showing off her silver medal after finishing second to Britain's Emily Nelson in the scratch race at last night's European Track Championships. A brilliant photograph there. McCarthy backs his underdogs. Writes Aidan Fitzmaurice here. I, for one, am shocked that the Republic of Ireland manager Mick McCarthy is saying we will qualify for the Euros. And Early claims a half-arsed sin bin wide open for exploitation, writes Martin Breheny here. This is on the news that this is up for debate, for vote this weekend, that they're going to replace a proposal to replace dismissal for cynical fouling with a sin bin has been described as half-arsed and wide open for exploitation by Paul Early.
I think Paul Early is spot on, unfortunately. I think the sin bin is the right move. I don't think the black card works in Gaelic football. I think the sin bin would work.
But he's saying it's not the thing.
He's saying it's not the thing because they're not going to stop the clock. So it's not just 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's, players can lie down injured, right, there can be a stop and play.
It's okay.
Really?
I don't think you can not introduce it for those reasons. Like, there'll be reasons there's always a reason not to do something, and those reasons for me are just like you're going to legislate for the few times that happens.
It's not going to be the few times. Like, you're talking about really intelligent teams who are looking to get inches, and like teams are going to take a sin bin.
But like, the referee's not an idiot. Like, if somebody's lying down, faking an injury, the referee will be right. You get your attention over there. Let's get the game back underway.
But that doesn't happen that often in Gaelic games anymore. Somebody lying down with a head injury, as Daniel James did in football during the week, he's down on the ground. They got to check
legitimately. Yeah, that's fair
due process. There's gonna, I just
so stop the clock is what you're saying.
Well, I don't know if that's feasible at club football or a club level. Like, it might be feasible at inter-county level, but it mightn't be feasible in certain grounds at inter-county level either. You know. So I think that the sin bin is probably the right move. But Paul Early is right. Like, these reservations have been there about it over the last little while. I just think that teams are going to do whatever they can to get around it to an extent.
A few comments in, Tommy. Dara O'Toole says, "Morning lads, please play the latest Risteards Gilroy sketch. Genius altogether." That's coming up a bit later on, so stay tuned for that, Dara. Ireland 182 says New Zealand have an incredibly strong team. If we beat them, it'll be Ireland's greatest ever performance. I mean, they need to dip under, we need to dip a bit over, and then everybody.
Well, we've never won a knockout game.
Adrian McPartland says, "What are your feelings on Seamus Coleman's poor performance, Adrian?"
Oh.
I have nothing to say.
Did you plant that with Seamus? With Seamus McPartland?
Adrian McPartland.
Adrian McPartland, sorry.
Outside of the fact that he shares a name with me.
You're on air with Nathan Murphy and Kevin Kilban tomorrow, so I'm really looking forward to what happens there.
No, that would be to suggest that I take some pleasure from the fact that Seamus Coleman is not having a good moment. Is that the expression we would use?
I'm not saying that you take pleasure in the fact that Seamus Coleman is not having a good moment. I'm saying you take pleasure in the fact that you made a point that probably stands true right now. But I'm not sure if you were right back 18 months ago or a year ago.
You could say that. It is not that long ago.
How long ago was it?
It's nowhere close to a year.
We'll dig out a clip for later on.
No, we won't. But you just mentioned the two people that are on tomorrow. What would be the point in rehaving that conversation with two people who are blinded by the fact that one of them has to meet him every other week and do an interview with him, and the other one was him 20 years ago?
So yeah, it was back in March 2019. Like, that's throwing shade before you get into it already.
Yeah,
like,
6 months ago.
Look, it's clear Seamus Coleman did not have a great game the other night, but he's been playing really well for Everton over the last couple of weeks.
You're not getting me into it.
Okay.
What have you got?
All right, I got the Sun here. One Mick Pony. Be under no illusions. Mick McCarthy insists there are no tricks left to play, and it will be more the same against Denmark. There's no surprises there, really. Jordan is out, recall for Rob, back to the Irish team, which we should have live in the next 10 to 15 minutes. And also, United knockout blows. David De Gea and Paul Pogba are both out of Sunday's showdown with Liverpool. So,
your boys are ruined, Tommy.
Manchester United are
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking that I'm not going to waste my time watching another game on Sunday. I wasted so many hours over the last couple of weeks watching Manchester United and Ireland games.
All right.
Just a waste of time. There's also inside, Paul Ince has blasted Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's work at Manchester United and says it is difficult to see how he's improving the club. Paul Ince has a column at Paddy Power every so often, and it's the same thing every couple of weeks.
It's great.
Ince blasts Solskjaer.
I love it.
What is the beef here?
I love it, Tommy. I don't know about you, but I love it.
I want to get to the bottom of this. When Eoin Sheahan gets back, we're going to do a proper beef is real on what's going on with Solskjaer and Ince. Can I also mention that the Glazers have made a move on the stock exchange. Kevin Glazer has traded, I'm not going to pretend I know what it means, but he's traded in his B shares to get A shares, which are worth about 270 million. And there's talk that they might be about to sell the club. And also inside the Sun, there's a little note here from an interview on WLR-FM yesterday. Justin McCarthy was on with Damien Tiernan chatting about Michael Brick Walsh, and the former Waterford boss who handled Walsh's debut compared him to Christy Ring. I never saw him knocked down by anyone. People say about Christy Ring that they never saw him knocked to the ground, and I never saw Brick Walsh knocked to the ground either.
Wow.
Yeah. Recalls a game
high praise
that Walsh played in Ennis, and he had an unbelievable performance, and afterwards Justin McCarthy went over to shake his hand. Couldn't shake his hand because Brick had broken his finger the week beforehand and hadn't told anybody. He says nowadays, if a boy had broken his finger, he'd be out for a month.
One of the old school, all right. The Irish Examiner on this Thursday morning. It's football that leads the way here. I'm surprised with the amount of football coverage still in the papers this morning, I have to say. Our worst ever week, writes Liam Brady, dissecting a dire 4 days for the Republic of Ireland team. And Schmidt names 15 charged with securing a third win over the mighty All Blacks. That's the sports page of the Irish Examiner this morning.
I have the Mail here. Fully loaded, Schmidt recalls his big guns for do or die clash. There's also Philip Quinn's piece on an All-Ireland playoff on the cards as the North loom large. That'd be very interesting in the current landscape. And also there's a column inside. Emil Heskey opens up on his lifelong struggle against racist abuse, and he's appealed to football to do much better in terms of dealing with racism. There's also a great image of the Japanese rugby players, Katade, working out, getting ready for South Africa this weekend. That's going to be a cracking game as well.
We read there this morning that Fukuoka is going to retire post-World Cup.
And become a doctor.
This is like one of the sensations, try-scoring sensations of the World Cup, is bowing out.
Yeah.
What age is he?
He's young enough. I think he's like 25 or 6.
27.
Is he 27? Yeah.
He's gone off to become a doctor. And like, I can imagine there'll be a load of clubs around the world that'll be going, Jesus, who is this guy? Sign him up. Like, I mean, part of me is obviously full of admiration for a guy that can be that much of an unbelievable rugby player and has gone off now to be an unbelievable professional off the pitch.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, you might be able to knock 4 years out of this.
Maybe he's just putting the feelers out there, Adrian.
You know, like shake the tree a bit.
Yeah. There's also a big piece inside. The United won 6 signings and 2 stars are crocked. They're in big trouble this weekend.
Is that news that they need 6 players?
Absolutely not.
The Irish Daily Mirror this morning, United's dread alert. Double Solskjaer blow as Pogba and De Gea miss out on Liverpool showdown is the story here by David McDonnell ahead of that big game at the weekend. Revenge on the Aviva menu, writes Paul O'Hare. That's about the Republic of Ireland and the Denmark match. Joe Ops for veteran duo, as I've been telling you. Rob Kearney and Peter O'Mahony have been named in that Ireland team to take on New Zealand at the weekend. And Aguero, see what they've done there? At the top of the newspaper, City striker thinks it's all Rover. It is now, and they can only make a gag about this car crash because everybody's fine. But Aguero's done some bit of damage to his 80 grand Range Rover.
Yeah, it didn't look good.
Sure, it'll be all right.
As the Daily Express here, we don't often have the Daily Express, but the Bulgarian boss, Krasimir Balakov, has issued a U-turn and issued a public apology to England stars who were subjected to racist abuse. He obviously said afterwards that he hadn't heard a thing.
Yeah.
But he might have to resign now off the back of this. And also they have Rory as no rival. Brooks Koepka hits out at Rory McIlroy. I also have the Times UK. There's UK Athletics have announced an inquiry into backing for Farah coach. So Neil Black obviously had to step down over his comments about Salazar over the last number of years. So there's a big review going on in there. And there's also going to be a move to change the times of Premier League games on St Stephen's Day. Boxing Day at the back of the UK Times here.
Fair enough.
Boxing Day, as Kevin Cabana called it. There's going to be an 8 p.m. kickoff.
He'd call it Stephen's Day.
Yeah, I know, I'm only joking.
I have the Guardian here, and it's Toje, rugby must be vigilant after abysmal Sofia racism. It's more on that line that you mentioned there. Toje has said that he has teammates who've been the target of abuse, writes Robert Kitson here, and believes that the time has come for more black sports people to take a public stand. So that's the Guardian for you this morning, and also a feature interview there with Coco Gauff. My generation has decided it's time to speak up. So an interesting read inside with Coco Gauff. Interesting to see too that Risteards Rugger, I don't know if you saw that yesterday, he'd been on Bulgarian TV in the aftermath of all that stuff that went on in Sofia, and saying that obviously all the comments were put to him, and the manager was pretty lily-livered afterwards, as was the goalkeeper, saying, I don't really hear very much. He was tearful on Bulgarian TV afterwards when he got asked about it. He said it's an absolute outrage that he was essentially saying, like, if Bulgaria need to be thrown out, or they need to be, whatever the sanctions that need to be taken, they need to be taken, and it was that made him a little bit tearful. Yeah. Good reaction to see, obviously.
Something has to be done. Do you think that walking off the pitch is going to be the thing to do?
I'm interested. I was, you know, I don't know, but I do know that the way we were dealing with it up to this point was just not the right thing to do. Like, it was fingers in the ear stuff, whereas at least now, like, it was brilliant to see the reaction to it, the England-Bulgaria game the other night, and in the game where you're like, Jesus, this could actually be abandoned. Like, and I actually don't know, I didn't see afterwards about what led to the group of Bulgarian supporters who, with the lads with the hoods up, walked off. I don't know, was that just because I know the pop-off was over having a conversation with, at one point, the Bulgaria captain to say he was having some sort of there seemed to be maybe some sort of a fan leader or something he was having a conversation with. And at some point, obviously after that, the lads left the stadium. So I don't know if that was like here, you need to get out of here because the game's going to get called off, or what led to it. But it was certainly an indication that at last football is taking this seriously. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened there with the Bulgarian fans. I think there was an insinuation that they felt they'd done their job and they were out the gap.
and that was it. I'm not sure really what happened, but football really hasn't dealt with it properly over the last 30
It hasn't,
years.
but
society, it's not really football either.
Well, look, it's true, right? But I don't know that what we're doing at the minute is exactly the right thing to do, but I definitely know it's a step forward. And any way of, like, is walking off the pitch the right thing to do, like, in terms of actually tackling the issue? Yes, like, that will get a load of headlines for 24 hours, and I just don't know that, like, for the players that are involved, the subject of that abuse, that's the right thing to do. Like, will we all look back in 5 years' time and go, well, that was a great landmark moment, and that resulted in, like, if for a second I think that anybody felt that that was going to result in some sort of improvement in the treatment of black players, then I think we'd all endorse it. But it was interesting to hear Gareth Southgate come out afterwards as well when he was asked about it and say, he made a very pointed comment about this isn't the first time these players have been the subject of this abuse. They have to deal with it domestically as well. So, like,
massively
that was very much, listen, it's not, this is also our problem.
Yeah, like, a lot of people were pointing out the UK back pages, the Daily Mail in particular, and some others that had some inflammatory headlines about the racist abuse that was taking place.
Yeah.
Given the current climate in UK politics at the minute.
But there was lots of photographs of the English players as well, in various states of salute.
Yeah.
So, I mean, nobody in this conversation can claim to be free from accusation around it and should deal with it. The Telegraph, finally, for me, is very much on that theme. It's a photograph of the England second row, Maro Itoje. Never assume that rugby is free from discrimination, is the article here. Itoje's warning as he condemns abysmal racist abuse of England footballers. So, I mean, I guess in a lot of ways it's good to see that is a topic that's taken on by a lot of the newspapers today, and that is Women's Sport Monthly. That's the pullout from inside the Telegraph today, the extraordinary story of Sophie Power's iconic race. So that is the Telegraph for you. We've live coverage from the press conference coming your way. That's Tokyo there. Live shots. Nothing much happening, Tommy, is a short story for the minute.
That's it.
But once it does start to happen, we're going to be Johnny on the spot.
There's an interesting piece in the Irish Times with Sonia Sullivan.
There is. I don't know if we have time to have a chat about that.
I'm not sure we do, actually.
Joe is going to tell us one way or the other.
Yeah.
Do I have the Irish Times?
You have the Irish Times over there.
Yeah, we'll come back to it, Joe. We're going to take a quick ad break and we're back after these.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
Fancy scoring free tickets to an incredible UEFA Champions League experience with Pepsi Max? Then show us your skills. Pepsi Max has 20 pairs up for grabs, and to be in with a chance to win, just pick up a Pepsi Max UEFA Champions League promotional pack in store. To enter, just post a video or pic of your best football trick with your promotional pack and share it on Pepsi Max Facebook or Instagram with hashtag For The Love of It. See pepsimax.ie for details. Pepsi Max, maximum taste, no sugar.
OTB AM.
2 minutes past 8 on this Thursday morning. We have our cameras and microphones ready to go in Tokyo. So once that press conference with Joe Schmidt starts for the Ireland team, we will bring it your way. He's going to confirm the Irish team that's named in a lot of the newspapers this morning as Rob Kearney at full-back, Keith Earls and Jacob Stockdale on the wings. We've Gary Ringrose and Robbie Henshaw linking up in midfield. We've Conor Murray and Johnny Sexton becoming the all-time half-back partnership with 56-time partnership there come Saturday morning. Cian Healy, Rory Best and Tadhg Furlong in the front row, Ian Henderson and James Ryan in the second row. All of that tight five writes itself. And then in the back row, Peter Mahoney is in for Tadhg Byrne with Josh van der Floer and CJ Stander alongside him in the back row. The 23, the replacements have yet to be confirmed, so we should see how all that pans out in terms of particularly Jordan Larmour and Tadhg Byrne as to whether there's going to be any room for both of those players in that match day 23. But you can see the live shots, and we're going to bring them your way as soon as that press conference gets underway. We'll bring it your way. A couple of comments in that we wanted to mention. Impact Fitness says Sonny Bill will be a terror when he comes on against tired bodies. Also, can France upset the Welsh? So yeah, interesting to see a couple of changes in that New Zealand team, including Sonny Bill on the bench and Ryan Crotty, no room for him at all.
Or Ben Smith.
It's incredible, really, when you think about it, the strength of that New Zealand team. Wolf Ticket says, yes, Sonny Bill can always create a try with one offload, as most of them can, to be fair. Ruin Schumann says, the Boks going to put Japan away this weekend. I think everybody expects that, but now that they're out of our way, everybody wants to see them win again.
Yeah, like it was 29-32 in that amazing game in Brighton 4 years ago, and Japan have a penalty. Eddie Jones is screaming for him to take the 3 points. But Michael Litch, here we go. I think
we're nearly ready to go. One last one here. All Blacks named a full team of pace, power. If we stay disciplined, I don't see Ireland scoring, let alone winning, says the uber negative Tom Strickland. Live to Tokyo, Joe Schmidt, Rory Best.
Live content up here with Greg Peake and Robbie Henshaw, and there'll be embargoed written word.
Yeah, we'll bring you that in just a second. They're going through the formalities there. Just once the lads get underway, you don't need to be hearing all that sort of stuff that goes on in the background. Josh Schmidt's about to name his team. Here we go.
Saturday evening, as follows: Cian Healy, Rory Best captain, Tyg Furlong, Ian Henderson and James Ryan, CJ Stander at 8, Peter O'Mahony at 6, and Josh van der Fleer at 7. Conor Murray and Johnny Sexton in the halves. In the midfield, Robbie Henshaw at 12 and Gary Ringrose at 13. On the left wing, Jacob Stockdale. On the right wing, Keith Earls. And at fullback, Rob Carney. The replacements are Niall Scannell, Dave Kilcoyne, Andrew Porter, Tyg Byrne, Rhys Ruddock, Luke McGrath, Joey Carberry, and Jordan Lama.
Joe, after Jordan Lama's one of the match performance against Mo, is there any temptation to go with him ahead of Rob Carney?
Yeah, there's probably 4 or 5, maybe half a dozen reasonably tight selection decisions, and you weigh up the experience, the previous performances against particular opposition, and combinations, and you make a decision. That's what you believe the best informed you can make, but you can't guarantee you've got any decision right until the game is completed.
What were those other
There's a number of them. Obviously with Bundy missing out, that kind of clarified the midfield a little bit. But Chris Barrell has been very good for us, and his second half performance, I think, against Scotland, he really came on and made an influential impact. On the wings, Andrew Conway's been very good, as well as Jordan Lama. So the outside backs is a bit of a conundrum. In the loose forwards, Geordie Murphy's versatility, the fact that I think he's 2 from 2 playing against the All Blacks. There's all those temptations that you factor in. Jean Klein, the impact he has in the engine room. So we've tried to add up as best we can. The combinations we think that will best serve us in this particular fixture.
So what is it
I think the unfortunate thing about any 23 that comes up against the All Blacks is they can play very well and still not get the result. That's the quality that the All Blacks have. That's the athletes that they possess. But one of the things is that they have connected up very well, that they have had some pretty successful experiences together. I think it's a side. There's a number of those players within the side that have contributed to a fair bit of history for us. Obviously, the first win over the All Blacks, the first time that we won at home against the All Blacks, but a few other milestones along the way. A lot of those players that are selected were in Australia last summer. We're in South Africa the summer before when we won in Cape Town. So, the accumulation of those experiences together hopefully builds a bit of confidence, because you need to have some belief. You can't go on. You have to go out and put your best foot forward, and we hope that this 23 will be committed to doing that. He brings a leadership and experience. He's a very effective line-out operator for us, and it's part of it is the structure, the way that he ends up across the width of the pitch. He tends to be playing in the wider channels, and therefore he's not as involved as some of the other players who are closer in. So, I think stats always tell part of a story, but they don't tell the complete picture. And for us, there are things that he can add for us that we think could be really important. Obviously, in the line-out, he saved our bacon last time we played with an exceptional turn and chase and the long arms that he reached out just to pluck the ball in front of Ben Smith to avoid Ben Smith. Really, I think he would have scored for certain if Pete hadn't got back and saved that. I think he won 2 balls on the ground in that game as well that were really important. So he has been a bit of a big moments player for us. Maybe not as many moments, but the big moments, they count.
So this Ireland team been better than the team that beat from what you're seeing? Have they gone on to another level?
Yeah, it's really hard to say because there are so many variables. You know, we got into Tokyo late Monday evening. We trained Tuesday. We trained this morning. It's hard to get a feel for quite how we're going. We'll do a captain's run tomorrow, and then hopefully that'll be the springboard. And it's I know it's bizarre. It may sound bizarre, but being very, very close to the team, I'm not necessarily any more aware or any better at predicting how the team will go. But on past experiences, I think this team know how to get up for big games. I think they have a confidence in each other that they can trust each other, that as long as they do their own jobs, other people will get their jobs done. And that's how you build a system, and that's how you build a defence and an attacking kind of platform. So, do we have to be better? I think we always have to be better. I think the All Blacks are they're always kind of raising the bar, and everyone else is chasing the bar and trying to get to the same height. So, I guess it is genuinely something we'll find out on Saturday.
So one good thing the flip side, you have a tweet actually they might got better on the back of the tweet.
Yeah, we're certainly not going to sneak up on them anymore. We're not going to surprise them. I think they're well aware of how we play and what they're going to do to combat that, and what they're going to put into their own armoury to make sure that we're chasing them about. So, I wouldn't be a great believer in you learn more from your losses. You learn more from every experience, and there are so many variables that go into a result in the test match that I learn from every win, loss, or draw that we have, just because you get a little bit more information about an individual player or on how this sequence works or how that defensive map went at that particular time. So, look, I've got huge respect for Steve Hansen, for Ian Foster, for the full coaching staff. Mike Cron has been there, for a long time, and he's seen a lot of big games, and he's creative around the line out as well as the scrum and how you can manipulate opponents. So, there's a host of challenges for us. Scott McLeod, has spent 3 days in our camp many moons ago, and so he'll be very aware of how we function, and he's now looking at how they're going to function against us. So those are the tight circles that rugby work in. Everybody knows everybody else pretty well, and so I've no doubt that they've got a few things cooked up that we haven't seen before that we're going to find really challenging.
Joe, why do you think that the Irish defence has given the All Blacks some problems in previous occasions, and do you think you can bring that level once again this weekend? I thought our defence was super last time we played them. The time before that, I thought it was good. We conceded 2 tries, and the time before that we conceded 4, but managed to score 5. So, it all depends on the day and how the game is going and how open it becomes. But you'd like to think that your work ethic is a big part of your defence, and I know that our players will be committed to working hard individually and for each other. So I know that one of the things Steve says, and he's said it for many years, I've heard him say it back when I was coaching Super Rugby, is that your kicking game shapes the defence, because you've got to be able to cover the space in behind so that your front line can function, and if they're continually turning you around. And I think there's a misconception that the All Blacks don't kick as much as anyone else. They kick as much as anyone else. Unfortunately, they just kick really well as a rule, and that makes it challenging for opponents.
Rory, where would you gauge this team to be at this stage of the week, and why is it you feel that this group of players have got up for these big games in the past?
I think Joe says it's a short week, so you put a lot of pressure on players to do a bit more work away from the pitch. I suppose it's hard to judge where that is until you play. I think we're in a reasonably good spot. We'll get the run out tomorrow, and it'll be a good gauge of where we are. And but ultimately, it's all about Saturday. And I don't think we don't feel at the minute like we're having to play catch up. I think the feeling was today that the boys have put in a good bit of work. But like I said, it's all about Saturday, and it's all about which team can turn up and implement their game plan best, and deal with the pressure of quarter-final rugby, of knockout rugby, and go from there.
Why do you feel that the team just have got up for those big games and have this group of players?
I think it's a very competitive bunch, and that probably starts with the team selection. I think that everyone pushes hard to be in that squad. It's no longer you kind of know what the 15 is going to be, and the rest just sort of are there to make up the numbers. There's everyone. What are we, squad number 33 now? We've got up to that every one of those 33 players believe that they're good enough to start, and they show it in training. And I think when you get that you get people driving each other on. Whenever you get competitive players that are not used to winning things at international level or club level, it's a good mix.
Last one there, you've spoken about the respect that you have for the Kiwi coach staff. I just wondered personally how much you enjoyed this rivalry when it's all said and done. Is it something you look back on fondly?
They're good guys to kind of have a drink with afterwards. I don't really enjoy the rivalry because it's difficult. It's a bit of double jeopardy, to be honest. I think they're smart coaches, and so you're trying to think about what they're going to bring and how they're going to try to manipulate us, and at the same time you're trying to devise strategies that, based on what you've seen of them and knowing them personally, how you think you can try to manipulate them. So in the end, that's only a small part of it. Coaching is only a small part of what goes into the 23 players who really then put the jersey on and play. But I enjoy that part of the job for sure. So and I'll enjoy catching up with them on Saturday. I exchanged a few texts last Saturday. So we'll look forward to catching up, and then we'll both sit nervously in coaches' boxes and hope that our teams can get the result on the day. Just really wishing each other luck, and also kind of not that happy that we're seeing each other this early, but it is one of those things. And as I say, I've got huge respect. It's hard for anyone not to have respect for what the All Blacks have achieved, and I think Steve and Fozzie have been at the forefront of that. As I said, Mike Cron, they've been there for a very long time and have done an incredible job. So, as a coach coming from New Zealand, seeing those guys at the top of the tree, it's pretty awesome to be able to be in the mix coaching against them, to be honest.
Okay, guys, we're going to switch off the live content and go into the embargo group. Thank you.
There we go. the Ireland press conference ahead of the big game on Saturday morning. Joe Schmidt bringing the team your way. John Duggan, good morning to you.
Adrian, how are you?
Good. We're just going to recap the team there for anybody who's just joining us on this Thursday morning watching OTB AM, the sports breakfast show from Off the Ball. It's almost 8:20 on this Thursday morning. The team, as you've been hearing, at full-back, a big question mark over that selection, but he's gone for the tried and trusted, who's Rob Kearney at full-back for the game. It's Keith Earls and Jacob Stockdale on the wings. We've Gary Ringrose and Robbie Henshaw linking up in the midfield, of course, in the absence of the suspended Bundy Yaki. That's another one of the three changes there. It's as you were in the half-backs for the 56th time in a record-breaking number partnership there for Johnny Sexton and Conor Murray. Up front, the tight five really writes itself. It's Cian Healy, Rory Besson, Tadhg Furlong, Ian Henderson and James Ryan in the second row, and then the return of Peter O'Mahony to the back row alongside Josh van der Fleer and CJ Stander as well. Interesting comments from Joe Schmidt there, talking about Peter O'Mahony particularly, saying that he's a big moment player for us. He says he thinks, I love this Joe Schmidt commentary generally, I think he won 2 balls on the ground against New Zealand, he says. You can be absolutely certain that Joe Schmidt is 100% certain
200%
balls that Peter O'Mahony won in the game, that he's trawled through all of that with a fairly fine tooth comb in terms of his selection for this game, probably well in advance of the World Cup, you assume, as well. But it's, I mean, some people will call it conservative, but the tried and tested approach for Joe Schmidt?
Well, 12 of the 15 that played against New Zealand in the game last November are in the team, and you could argue that the 3 players that weren't in are possibly better players. Conor Murray for Marmion, Henderson in better form than Toner, and Henshaw in for Aki. So you can't really argue with it. Like, if we win, it'll be a masterstroke, and if we lose, it'll be why didn't Larmour start, or where was Tadhg Byrne and this and that. But Tadhg Byrne's generally more of a second row, isn't he? Yeah. And Larmour would maybe possibly be an impact player and could possibly be compared against Rob Kearney defensively. Well,
they're great. They're both of them, and they're both in the 23. Both of them are on the bench. They're both, as you say, versatile players. Like, the temptation to put them in the team, I'm sure there's an aspect of the formula here that's, let's put them on the bench given their versatility. Like, Larmour can cover a couple of positions, Byrne can definitely do that. Their replacements, by the way, full Scannell, Kilcoyne, Andrew Porter, Tadhg Byrne, Rhys Ruddock, who must be one of the ones who must feel most hard done by in terms of not making that 15, Luke McGrath, Joey Carberry and Jordan Larmour.
The good thing is we're full strength, yeah? Yeah. Like, in Argentina 4 years ago was a mess. Wales in 2011, we got caught napping by Wales in the keg thing in Wellington. This time we know we've got a full strength team, we don't have any injuries, we got 1 player suspended, that happens. But we're not going in decimated. The World Cup for 32 years has been about winning 3 matches. We can talk about for the month about, oh, we did this in the pool, we did that. It's about winning 3 games. We're generally, apart from the Argentina in 1999, we're going to get to a quarter final. You win 3 games, you win the World Cup. That's what this is about. We've never won the first one. This is our chance. If we're going to win the World Cup, it shouldn't be about, I know there's all this talk about we reach a semi-final, it'll be a great thing. I don't think it's that great a thing. We've won Grand Slams. There's only 10 teams that probably play this thing seriously in the world. Try and win the thing. If you want to win the thing, you're going to have to beat the All Blacks. This is what it's all about. So I'm sure, and I saw with Johnny Sexton the other day, I think he's carrying a positive mindset. Let's go and try and win the game and beat the All Blacks. And if whatever happens after that, it's in the lap of the gods.
Are we going to do it?
I give us a good chance. I give us between a 30 and 40% chance of winning the game. Like, I knew going into the Switzerland game the other night that we had absolutely no chance of beating Switzerland, and there was no hope, and there is no hope at the moment for the Irish soccer team to get beyond a certain level. There's always hope. We beat the All Blacks 2 of the last 3 times. We beat them last year. We've won a Grand Slam last year. You can't be at peak all the time. The Japan thing, forget about it. That was the heat and the humidity, I think. Like, they couldn't breathe out there. Now, rugby and sport does go on cycles. We possibly are beyond our cycle. And New Zealand, and you're looking at, there are 4 players in the New Zealand team that didn't even feature last November, not even off the bench, including like Sivu Rees. So New Zealand are great at evolving. You would have probably argued that in November they're coming to the end of their seasons when they're doing these tours, and it's easier for us to beat them then than it will be in a World Cup. So it is against us. The odds are against us. We're playing the best team in the world. They soaked it up against South Africa and then they just cut them to shreds. So there's probably 2 ways of looking at it. Do we play an attritional game like we did even against Scotland, or we did against New Zealand last year, and like power them into submission and keep it tight, or do we need to get 3 or 4 tries on the board like Chicago and just win it on the scoreboard.
I think we do, because Ireland are not a team that can go behind against many teams and come back from that. Like, I actually don't believe that there's really, I mean, maybe the evidence of the last month would sort of counter this point, but that there's a huge amount wrong with the Irish mentality necessarily. They'll definitely have been questioning themselves. You mentioned the Japan game. They will have been questioning themselves after that, regardless of how it came about, because that was never on the cards. Like, for the previous, as soon as the draw was made, we had that game written off. And maybe that was part of the problem. I don't know. I suspect possibly not. I suspect that Japan have gone on to prove that they are actually quite a good team. We haven't hit our straps. That's abundantly evident. Like, we were so positive sort of post the Scotland game that actually this Ireland team have now landed. All that stuff that we saw in the pre-warm-up games, none of that was actually the real Ireland. This is the real Ireland. So we'll see. There are a lot of question marks about that Ireland team, is the thing. I think you're 100% right to say that they're the obviously there's the best selection we have. We're going to hear a little bit from Justin Marshall here. He was in conversation with the former All Black scrum half, in conversation with Eoin during the week in Tokyo, and explaining why he thinks that Conor Murray's talents have been misused by Ireland.
One of the last things I just wanted to ask you about, Justin, was about Conor Murray's performances so far this calendar year. Obviously, ends 2018 is arguably the best scrum half in the world. This year hasn't gone amazingly for him, but I do wonder if he was so central to Ireland's tactical plan in terms of box kicking that as soon as you figure out Ireland tactically, suddenly Conor Murray's performance dips. I'm not sure what you've made of his graph this year.
Well, he's a high quality player, and he is world class. And on his day, he's capable of causing lots of teams big headaches because he's intelligent. I think what has happened with Ireland is, yes, they've become predictable and they haven't evolved their kicking game. And because of that, I think Conor Murray got given the mantle of being the best scrum half in the world, but a lot of the plaudits that were coming his way were about the way that he controlled the kicking game.
Sure.
So then teams analyse it and go, okay, what are his idiosyncrasies when he gets set to kick? Where does he normally kick? What areas does he want to put it in? And so the back three adjust, wingers adjust, they get used to it, and they know what they know and expect what's coming. What I do think is what he's done then is not being able to have the rest of his game in sync. He's got a great running game, but you don't see it now because he's used so regularly as a kicker. So what I'm basically trying to say is proportionately the balance in his game plan is out. So the way that he plays is he's become ultimately more of a kicking scrum half than having all of it together as a balance, defence, a running game, passing game to the breakdown quickly, and the kicking. He's gone 60-70% to a kicking scrum half, and I don't think that's been good for his game. Like, I know myself, when I wanted to get myself into the game, I wanted to take a couple of steps, bring a defender in, put someone in a hole, or if they drift off me, take a break and really ask some questions, which takes pressure off everybody outside you as well. And I just don't think his balance is right in his game. He needs to. He's still a quality player and he's still got it in him. You just wonder what messages he's been giving and how he should play out there.
That's really interesting stuff from Justin Marshall. An interesting full chat. You can check that out on offtheball.com. Plenty of commentary as well plenty of comments through on our YouTube feed about those Justin Marshall quotes. I have a lot of respect for Justin Marshall. Great player, great human being. Really enjoyed that interview and his perspectives. Right, David O'Connor there. So excited and nervous for this game. It's been a while since I felt like this. Love a good competition, says Timothy Rowan. John Tiswell says, quality interview, no doubt. On current form, this should be an easy enough game for the All Blacks. However, as Marshall said, we do have that performance in us, and it might just be this week, although we may be knackered by then and going home the following week. All of those things are a possibility there. Great rugby brain displayed there, says Wassam. If you expose your rookies as soon as possible and as much as practical, then you minimise the risk that when they're thrown into the mix. That's exactly what Steve Hansen's been doing, and a continuation of working with Graham Henry. It's always the challenge with any international sport. It's that balance between getting your rookie players in, getting them the experience, and potentially sacrificing results as you go. But it doesn't seem to bother the All Blacks.
Well, the way they're able to evolve, I made it only that 8 players played against 8 of the team that played against Ireland last year,
right,
are still there. 7 new players. That's about evolving. That's not about form or that or this or that. It's about evolving. The way they're able to evolve so quickly, which is quite staggering. Something in my gut just tells me they're not going to win the World Cup this year. There's no kind of rationale or logic behind it. But there's something in my gambler's gut telling me they're not going to win this World Cup.
a lot's been made obviously about Justin Marshall's comments there obviously about Conor Murray, and a lot's been made about the partnership between himself and Sexton, and it's the 56th time that the two of them are going to line up. You can see all the way back to the first cap that certainly the first time the two of them lined up together. They haven't aged badly. Like, apart from Murray's hair, you could almost swap the two of those photographs in, and you know, you wouldn't know there'd be a huge amount of difference. No, you wouldn't, and it's kind of funny with Johnny Sexton, and like, I don't think he's ever started a knockout game at a World Cup. Yeah. In 2011, he came on against Wales in New Zealand, and he's 34 now. It's funny, like, you see with footballers with age, like Ronaldo and that kind of thing. You would expect normally 20 years ago a 34-year-old out half. Would he be the key player in the team? No. Oh, yeah. You wouldn't have expected it. So, look, I just hope we do ourselves justice on Saturday. I don't want to hear on Sunday or Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, oh, we did ourselves so proud and we lost by 7 points and aren't we great and all this kind of thing. It's professional sport. We're there to win. We played like professionals last year against the All Blacks. We were amazing. It was an amazing night at the Aviva. We were professionals at Twickenham when we powered England into submission on St. Patrick's Day. That's what it should be about. It should be about champions. It should be about winning. And one of the greatest things I ever saw in sport was when New Zealand beat us in 2013 at Lansdowne Road, when we had them like nearly... Ryan Crotty game. Yeah, nearly. Funny enough, Nigel Owens refereed it and gave New Zealand a late penalty. And we were so brilliant in that match. Johnny Sexton missed a late kick to put them probably beyond reach. But they went up, scored a try. They did not miss a beat. They won it like champions. And that's what every team should be striving towards. And Joe Schmidt has been the best exponent of that. And he's been the best coach we've ever had. We've won Grand Slams. We won a Grand Slam, but we won Six Nations titles. We beat New Zealand twice. That had never happened before. So there's no blame whatsoever, or kind of any kind of... Joe has taken us as far as he can. Joe can leave with his head held high. Yeah. But surely it's not about moral victories anymore. And surely it'll be such a great day as well. England, Australia, 8:15. Ireland, All Blacks, 11:15. Yeah. I don't know what people's plans are, whether it's like fry-ups or, you know, an early visit to the tavern, or is it the couch, or what it is. But even from a ritualistic point of view, it could be one of those great days for our sport. What's the John Duggan plan? I don't know yet. I'll either lock the door like a prison and get the meals, you know, in a plastic tray, and just not speak to anybody for 10 hours and just go on Twitter and watch the matches, or I'll go out and I'll, you know, really get involved in the atmosphere of Dublin and, you know, the hostelries and the breakfast rolls and that kind of thing, and then the debate and the water cooler debate. But I don't want this, like, it's so funny. We're in a sense of despair about the soccer team at the moment. We're in a sense of probably a lot of anger about the soccer team. But I think if we lose on Saturday, even if we lose narrowly and in a proud way, we should still feel bloody frustrated. Because big time. It's about winning. It's only about winning, and like, it could be, as you rightly point out, we could be heading into Joe Schmidt's last game in charge of that Irish team. We'll see how things pan out. We certainly hope it's not. We hope he's got 3 games left, and then he becomes a free man of every town, village and city around the country, is really what we're hoping. Well, it's always Westmeath, isn't it? Listen, you own him, don't you? He's a Mullingar man, essentially, in the same way that Paddy O'Shea is a Westmeath man, John. You know that. Both of them, actually. That's an excellent point. I've been asked before on the show about who my Westmeath Mount Rushmore would be, and I've always put Paddy in there. Maybe I should be putting Joe Schmidt in there as well. Yeah, I mean, if he wins the World Cup, I'm going to make room for him. Anybody else? Most of the other ones that I have are actual Westmeath people. is the only thing, so not that exciting. Right, John, thanks a million for that. All right, Adrian. Thanks a lot. We are going to continue our chat about the rugby. Alan Quinlan's going to be joining us on the line from Tokyo very shortly to look ahead to that game. We also have tonight, by the way, live on the radio just after 7 o'clock, going to be bringing you the roadshow that we had at the Borgash Energy Theatre on Tuesday night in the company of some absolute rugby legends down there. Michael Lynagh was there, Bobby Skinstad, Keith Wood, Brian O'Driscoll, Danny O'Reilly as well dropped in from the Coronas. It was all in association with Heineken, and also on his way down there was Paul Howard. It's all going to air tonight, and it'll also be up on our YouTube and social channels as well. But here's a taster of Paul Howard on the early years of Ross O'Carroll Kelly.
I started writing the column in the Sunday Tribune, and for the first 2 or 3 years, finally getting to your question, I didn't put my name on it. So it was just the diary of a school's rugby player by Ross O'Carroll Kelly. And no one knew it was me for about 3 years, but everybody was guessing who it might be. I told some people it was Ryle Nugent once for fun, and somebody attacked him in a pub once, and I happened to be with him at the time. And this guy said to Ryle, he got him up against the wall, I just slammed him up and said, some of us have to live in Tala. And I had written something about Tala the week. I'd written something. The joke was Ross had his mobile phone stolen and he was going out to Tala to get it back. And he falls asleep. In the car and he looks out the window and he goes, Jesus, look at this place. The horror, the deprivation. How did people live like this? And his friend says, Ross, we're still in Terranure. Right? So that's the joke. The joke is Terranure. This guy thought the joke was Tala, and he gets Ryle up against the wall. Some of us have to live in Tala. Ryle hadn't a clue what he was talking about. But I did. So, being a good friend, I just started moonwalking out of the pub and I left,
That's Paul Howard in conversation with Nathan and Brian O'Driscoll at our roadshow on Tuesday night. Full thing coming your way a bit later today, so keep an eye on the Off the Ball channels for all of that. It is 8:35 on this Thursday morning. Bright and crisp Thursday morning. Hope you're well wherever you are. You're watching OTB AM. It's the Sports Breakfast Show from Off the Ball. The Irish rugby team, as you've been hearing, has just been named. We're going to be crossing to Alan Quinlan in Tokyo in just a few minutes' time. But before all that, let's bring you back a whole 11 months ago. Alan Quinlan on OTB AM in November, the Monday after Ireland put the All Blacks to the sword in Dublin.
Where does that rank?
That's the best. No doubt about it. I think it's the best result, best win we've ever had. What a year it's been for Irish rugby, 2018 Grand Slam, winning in Australia and beating New Zealand with missing Conor Murray, Robbie Henshaw, Dan Levy, Sean O'Brien. It's right up there. I thought it was an incredible performance. I was surprised because to go from where they were last week against Argentina, which in some senses it was a perfect performance, I said that, to get it up to that level. And it's Joe Schmidt master plan.
Yeah, the best yet, according to Alan Quinlan, who is now live on the line from Tokyo. Morning to you, Alan.
Good morning, Adrian. How are you?
Flying, thanks. Let's get stuck into the team. Back row to begin with. It's Peter O'Mahony gets the nod there, CJ Stander and Josh van der Fleer as well in there. Just interesting listening to some of the Joe Schmidt quotes. I'm sure you probably had an ear on it from the press conference in the last few moments, talking about Peter O'Mahony's selection. Particularly, he said he's a big moments player. He said, I think, I'm sure he's certain of it, that he won 2 balls on the ground against New Zealand back in November and stopped a certain Ben Smith try. The selection of Peter O'Mahony.
Yeah, I suppose at the start of the week, I was thinking more that Ty Byrne is he brings a lot of ball carrying ability. Peter's big strength is his line out and his breakdown work, and he hasn't, and I'm sure he'd admit it himself, probably hasn't hit the ground running at this World Cup. He got concussed in the first game, and that probably hampered a little bit of his performances as the time went on. But I always think of being in a dressing room, and I think back to when I was a player, and it doesn't really matter to the players around you if the player in question maybe isn't playing brilliantly at that moment. You don't think about that. You look across and you see the character, you see the leadership, you see the body language, and you feel the presence of the player, and that's exactly what he will bring to this Irish team. He's a fantastic rugby player. He's tough as nails. And one thing you need against the All Blacks is to be confrontational, to be aggressive, to be in their faces and to stand up to them. And he will do that. I think he needs to do, from a footballing point of view, he needs to do more than that. But they're your primary objectives, not get bullied and be physical against them and have some of those big moments. Joe Schmidt spoke about them. I'm always going on about big moments because I think one line-out steal can win a game for you. One turnover can win a game for you. It can change everything. The what-ifs, if you didn't get it. And it can lead to score. It can lead to relieving a bit of pressure or whatever. So he's picked because of his experience and because he's a quality rugby player. He's not getting selected this week because he's been playing brilliantly. But I think it's a big vote of confidence from the coach to go and say, well, look, I know what you can do. And I'm sure this has been said internally to Peter. Just go out and bring your usual self this week, but add more value as regards with the ball in hand. And he's capable of doing that. So it doesn't surprise me. You know, I thought, like, Ty Byrne is such a dynamic ball carrier, and he's a different type of player. But I think he would have certainly brought a lot in the ball carrying stakes. But Peter probably brings more experience and more nous. And you know, there's 12 of these players started against New Zealand last November, and there is value in that. So it doesn't surprise me. And you probably wanted a Rob Kearney one next. I'll jump ahead and say it's a similar situation.
Hang on, before you get there on that one, we will get onto it for sure. Like, when you look at just one more on the back row, you look at that New Zealand back row, like, it's incredibly strong. It's probably maybe the strongest in world rugby. Ardy Surveyor, I've just lost him from Sam Cane and Kieran Reid, obviously. So yeah, an incredible back row. Rhys Ruddock, you haven't mentioned. Does he feel a bit sore about this?
Yeah, look, I think you have to consider where he's come from, and you know, he played very, very well against Russia. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But with respect, you have to kind of, and maybe you were wrong. I thought he was very, very unlucky not to be involved against Samoa, not to start maybe against Samoa. So he's been unlucky. But if we lose against New Zealand, these are the kind of things that come up. Should we have played Jordan Larmour? Should we have played Ty Byrne? Should Rhys Ruddock been involved? And you know, so it's kind of one of those hindsight ones. If the team wins, it'll be perfect, you know. So he is unlucky. There's no doubt about it. He is unlucky. But the players are there who've done it before. The question is, can they do it again? Because that New Zealand back row is incredibly dynamic. Sam Cane is very, very aggressive. You think back to a couple of years ago in Dublin, where he hit Robbie Henshaw with that shoulder into the side of the face and didn't receive a yellow. It wasn't even a penalty. Nowadays, it would be straight red card. And I said it at the time. You know, he's just a very aggressive player. He's not a dirty player. He just plays really competitively and hard. And I think Josh van der Fleer needs to match that. He needs to bring a bit of an edge against him. And Ardy Surveyor then is just so dynamic. He's just, sometimes you think you have him tackled and he's just powering through tackles, and he's not the biggest guy in the world. I think for them, their situation with Kieran Reid is similar to Peter O'Mahony in a sense that he hasn't been playing that well this year. He hasn't been usually prominent for the Crusaders or for New Zealand themselves. So he is still an incredible player. But I think their back row is very, very powerful. And if we don't get at least parity there, we're going to be in big trouble.
Listening to Schmidt in the press conference as well this morning, you mentioned Rob Kearney there. One of the quotes that went out for me was about the kicking game. He was quoting Steve Hansen and saying that your kicking game dictates your defence, essentially. He said there's a misconception that the All Blacks don't kick as much as anybody else. They do. They just do it really well. Is that inform his decision about picking Rob Kearney, fullback?
Yeah, I think, look, he's so much experience, and his left boot is massive as well. So if he gets time and space and wins ball in the backfield, he has an ability to launch it from 122 to the next. Jordan Larmour is a bit untried and untested in that situation, and not proven, I should say. If Jordan Larmour starts the game, Adrian, there is no doubt in my mind that Richie Mo'unga is going to pepper him with high balls early on. Will they do that against Rob Kearney? Probably. They'll still do it, but not as much. I think they'll try and isolate Keith Earls with their crossfield kicks. But Kearney kind of takes away that another string to their bow, if you like, because they'd be foolish to. They'll definitely kick some there, but they'd be foolish to keep kicking it there to Rob Kearney because he's good in that area. And what Rob Kearney brings is a brilliant anticipation as to where the ball ends up, and that comes from experience. And he's a very good reader of the game. You know, you're playing a guy. It's probably the safer option. There's no doubt about it. If we have to chase a game, you know, Jordan Larmour is coming on the field, and Ty Byrne is coming on the field, and there's going to be changes pretty quickly. Kilcoyne, all these guys, Porter will be on. Let's hope we're not having to chase a game, and these guys can be brought on the latter parts of the game. But you'll need all 23. But certainly Rob Kearney gives you that kicking option.
Yeah, given how dangerous New Zealand can be, you see them scoring tries from inside their 22 with fairly big regularity. What sort of a game plan is that going to dictate from an Irish point of view? Quinny, you frequently talk about Ireland's. You would like to see Ireland pin teams back a bit more in terms of territory. But given their dynamism, what sort of a game plan do you expect to see from Ireland?
They're not going to invent a wheel here. I think if their set piece is good, they can launch some attacks. I.e., the ones that stick out in my mind are those kind of set plays that Joe Schmidt comes up with, and usually they're developed out of analysing the opposition and seeing if you can find a little hole or a gap somewhere. They identified some space in the backfield for Jacob Stockwell's try in November when they beat him. That space is probably not going to be there tomorrow. Sometimes you run set plays and they break down and they don't get through any gaps. So I think for Ireland to dictate any sort of tempo in this game, their set piece has to be good, and that's scrum and line out. Your line out is really a brilliant launch pad for setting up positions around the field and where you attack from. So I think that's really, really important. And the territorial side of it is vital as well, because I know they can go the length of the field, New Zealand, but Andy Farrell will want to try and play as much in their half as possible, because they do tend to take chances and they move the ball around a bit. And what he'll be saying to his defence is, make sure you hunt on the inside and don't let him step you, and then we can force offload, we can force turnovers, and we can try and get him isolated in those wider channels. But if you make a mistake and somebody shoots out of the line, you can be punished severely. It's like the old saying, if the ball is down one end of the field, they can't, well, they still can, but the likelihood is they can't hurt you the full length of the field. So I think territory is going to be really important. I think set-piece territory. We're not going to see Ireland kind of throwing the ball around willy-nilly. I think they've got to be very confrontational and aggressive and reach their potential as regards. I said this at the start of the week, they've all got to play 8, 9, 10s. They're the scores, the benchmark for the ratings after the game to have any chance, because you have to say the momentum and the form is better with New Zealand at the moment, and they believe they can win. But if Ireland stay in the game, and the longer they stay in the game, there'll be a little bit of a seed of doubt there, because, as I said, these guys have beaten them before, and if they're not taking a backward step and if they can't shake Ireland off, well, then it might get inside their heads a little bit. But it's still going to be very, very difficult.
Yeah, there was one stat in the Irish Independent this morning from Rory O'Connor about how much Ireland kick, pass, run, 48% pass, 44% run and 8% kick. So we'll see how that goes. And I know there's a lot spoken about ball retention this week as well. I guess we won't matter. It won't matter if we bore the shite out of them and beat them. We'll all be delighted with that. One interesting one from Dave Tyrrell here, Quinny, just on the on Twitter. On the team selection, he says, what about centre cover? Henshaw, 1 game in 3 months. Who's the replacement? Larmour against Sonny Bill coming off the bench. It could be a reshuffle, obviously, of some players who are like Keith Earls particularly.
Yeah, it's Earls could probably go into the centre. Larmour can go in 12. I think he has an ability to be able to do that. He's such a talented player. And he's not a small guy either. Jordan Larmour is very, very strong and physical. So, yeah, he's right there in what he's saying, that Robbie Henshaw has very little rugby played, and if he broke down early on, he looked a little bit rusty last week. But Henshaw's tough, mentally and physically, and he's an abrasive type of player. That he was brilliant in Chicago. If you think back to that game a number of years ago, I think the continuity between Sexton, Henshaw and Ringrose will help them, because they defend a lot together. They play a lot together for Leinster as well. So you can't cover every avenue or every base, you know what I mean? And I think it would be, it's probably another area that is a worry, that if you have the likes of Sonny Bill Williams coming off the bench, he's so physical, he's so big. Goodhue is big, Leonard Brown is big. They have a lot of big players and physical players, and Jordy Barrett as well. So their bench is very, very strong.
Yeah. The one person on the pitch we haven't mentioned so far is Nigel Owens and the impact that he might have. He's going to let flow. Obviously, we've seen over the years that the All Blacks have tended to get the decisions have tended to go their way, Quinny, I think is the philosophical way of putting it. What do you see in terms of the pressure on his role and who his style might favour most?
Yeah, it's one I've thought about a lot during the week. Look, he's an excellent referee. He's a good communicator, and I think I have to be careful what way I say this because it can be taken in the wrong way. But they're a cynical side, and I like that because it's a way of intimidating the opposition. It's a way of pressurising the opposition. It's a way of pushing the laws, the boundaries, the offsides, all that kind of stuff. They're in your face. They're a very confrontational side. And there's no way Nigel Owens can pick up everything. I think it was one of the key things in that victory last year. Ireland gave away 5 penalties. They gave away 11. They were a bit disgruntled after the game. They were very lucky not to have Sam Whitelock yellow carded early on in that game. And Wayne Barnes did a really good job. So it's a hard game to referee this because it is going to be quite aggressive and quite physical. But he is a good communicator, and I think Joe Schmidt will obviously highlight some things before the game to him, and Steve Hansen will probably be doing stuff about the Irish as well. So I go back to 2012. We've got a couple of decisions in big games when we should have beaten them. 2012 in Christchurch, he penalised Cian Healy at scrum time, and it should have been an Irish penalty, and it was blatantly obvious watching it back. They went up the field and they got a drop goal to win the game. Ireland were winning at that stage. I think it was 78 minutes. It would have been an incredible victory. 2013 then in Dublin with penalising Jack McGrath for going off his feet at the end of the game when this probably happens a lot in matches where it's not picked up, So they still had to go on and hold on to the ball for multiple phases and win and get score on the corner to break Irish hearts. But I think, look, I wouldn't have any concerns. I actually think he's a very good referee. Sometimes he's just got to be strong. From an Irish point of view, and then the New Zealanders may say different, the New Zealand press or the New Zealand players or management, but I think he's got to be really strong from an Irish point of view because they can be influential in their presence, if that makes sense, and that aura, and it's the All Blacks and they should win, and sometimes the script is written like that and they use it to their advantage. So he's got to be strong and some big decisions. He won't get everything right, but I think Ireland still have to try to be squeaky clean as much as they can, and that's the way they play. Their discipline is normally very good, but they have to be aggressive and not be afraid to push their aggression as well and be confrontational because so he's going to be a key influencer and the major influencer, I think, in which way the game goes in the end.
Yeah, the entree on Saturday morning Irish time is obviously England-Australia. I'm really surprised by the team selection from Eddie Jones here. He's dropped forward from the 15. He moves to the finishers, whatever you call it, finishers bench. And so it means that Owen Farrell moves to 10, Henry Slade comes in at midfield, and Elliot Daly moves to fullback. Like all this talk when you had the last while, the same at New Zealand and a couple of the other teams, about this sort of dual playmaker role that they have is now suddenly gone out the window.
Yeah, well, look, he's gone back to his perceived strongest side. I think, putting Tuilagi at 12 and Slade back in at 13 and Farrell at 10 is physically incredibly powerful in that 10-12 channel. I think they're worried about Karevi. And, Ireland get a fair bit of criticism about the way they play. But England are a very, very direct side. They kick a lot as well, and they keep things pretty simple at times. And making this decision kind of goes back to that way of playing as well, because I think Ford is a fantastic distributor of a ball, and they're far more dangerous as regards from scoring tries, getting the ball to Watson and May when Ford plays. But they've gone for the more confrontational, physical side.
Yeah. So your prediction of which two teams are going to go through these two quarterfinals, Quinny? Put your money on the line.
I think Ireland, or I think Australia. Geez, I'm getting all mixed up here. I think England are going to be too powerful for Australia. Australia have to throw caution to the wind a little bit, and we saw what they're capable of. They did it against New Zealand and Perth in July. If they execute and play that type of a game, they could upset them. But I think England will probably win that game. And I think in our game, what do you think, Adrian?
Don't be sitting on that fence, Quinny. Come on now.
I think New Zealand will probably win, and the form would dictate they'll win. And it's one of those heart things. Heart, Ireland, head. The head says New Zealand, and that's probably the sensible one. And I'll be happy to be wrong, because part of me just thinks they have a great chance. And I would love to be in that situation. I always say, people often say, what do you miss about playing? I miss this type of a challenge, whether it be going to the south of France with Munster, or being down in Hamilton with Ireland, or in Auckland with Ireland, in these kind of daunting situations. They're not the same, because they're not exactly as bad as they used to be, because this team has beaten New Zealand and we give them a chance. But I think they have a very good chance. If all the execution and all the skills and all that kind of stuff are fine to talk about, but if Ireland get bullied physically, they're not going to win. If they stand up to New Zealand and execute really well and are uber aggressive at the breakdown and defensively, they have a great chance. I think they have a great chance.
How are you finding Tokyo?
There's a lot of concrete. It's busy. It's a lot calmer here this weekend than it was last weekend, obviously, with the typhoon. So it's I'm excited. Everybody's excited. There's Irish people everywhere.
Really?
It's just phenomenal. Yeah, it is. And I know it's the real business end of the World Cup now. So there's 4 great games at the weekend, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully, we may get there for the first time ever, get into a semi-final. So the last sting of a dying wasp, really, is where someone described it to me yesterday.
Jesus,
so,
a dying wasp is not. I'm not taking any positivity from that.
Well, do you know what? If the wasp is dying, he better sting. Make sure he gets the sting good and strong anyway. So Ireland have to sting on Saturday, and if they do, they've a good chance. And look, I think it's worth mentioning. It could be Joe Schmidt's last game, and his legacy will be a bit damaged by this, which will be, some people say it's fair, some people say it's unfair. He's been our greatest ever coach because of what he's delivered in the last number of years, and it'd be incredible if this group of players were to get to a semi-final, and it'd be even better beating probably the best team in the competition. So the reality the reality says we'll probably be coming home and they'll be going home on Monday, but I think they have a good chance, and I think they'll believe it themselves. I think they believe themselves that it'll be a good chance.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed.
See how we go. Quinny, pleasure as always. Thanks a million.
Cheers. Thanks, Adrian.
Stay safe. Alan Quinlan there in Tokyo, ahead of the big game on Saturday morning. 11:15 kick-off between New Zealand and Ireland. Love to get your thoughts as well. Plenty of them coming into us this morning about how you feel that game is going to go, and the team selection this morning as well from Joe Schmidt. So do keep them coming in. It's just coming up at 9 o'clock on this Thursday morning. You are tuned in to OTB AM, whether you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or indeed listening to us on offtheball.com or on the Go Loud app. We're delighted to have you along with us this morning, and we'll be delighted as well to hear from you. So we're going to talk to Phil Thompson very shortly. We're going to get his thoughts on the big football this weekend. Manchester United against Liverpool on Sunday afternoon, 4:30 game. Full live commentary on Off the Ball in the company of Nathan Murphy and Kevin Kilbane, who was on last night's football show on Off the Ball, where he revealed that he's watched Ireland against Georgia 3.5 times. 3.5 times since last Saturday. He also shared his thoughts on Seamus Coleman's running battles against the Swiss.
He didn't play well, Seamus Coleman. I think he'll be the first to admit that. But do you know what, Johnny? They came to Duggan, Switzerland, and I felt as though they were taunting us. I felt there was one or two occasions when we were just allowing them to run through us, go through us with a tackle, get up and get on with it. Oh, yeah, you're grand, fine, know where it'll be. Seamus did the same in that game. I'd have no issue with that. I'd have no issue. Maybe you look at it because he's been sent off, and I felt it was harsh. It was a harsh yellow card for him. Xhaka's a mouth. Let's be honest. Xhaka's got a gob on him, and I'd actually prefer Sheamus to actually tell him he's got a mouth on him, like he did. I probably would have reacted the same way Seamus Coleman would have reacted, because they were actually annoying me in Dublin, the way that they were kind of almost walking all over us on our home patch. And I felt that Seamus did the right thing in that game. I felt he did the right thing last night. But when he gets sent off, it looks, oh God, what's he doing in that position there? Why is he getting himself in that position to get himself sent off when he shouldn't have received the first yellow card? But I don't know. I don't have a problem with that, Johnny. I genuinely don't. I'm not just saying it to defend him. I don't have a problem with that, because I just felt as though maybe one or two others could have helped Seamus in doing that as well.
Kevin Caban in conversation with Johnny Ward on the Football Show on Off the Ball last night, and as I mentioned, full live commentary of Manchester United against Liverpool and Off the Ball on Sunday from 4:30, and Kev will be alongside Nathan to bring you that. But I'm delighted to say, to look ahead to the game now, we're joined on the line by the Liverpool legend Phil Thompson. Morning to you, Phil.
Good morning, guys. You all right?
Are you? How far out do you get excited about this game? Are you already jittery?
I always get excited about it, but I'm also nervous about it. I don't think it ever leaves you for this match. It's absolutely huge. It's built up prior to the game, the full week it's normally, but because it's been international week, and other things have gone on, it's took away a little bit of that pushing it. So maybe this time we'll get a decent football match, because the last few games between Liverpool and Manchester United have not been great. Yeah, and this sense of excitement is slightly less as well, given the gap that's been you mentioned some of the recent games, right? Like the February game, the 0-0, Liverpool's title ambitions take a severe dent that day, hatful of injuries as well out of the game. But all that notwithstanding, the gap has been widening ever since February. Yes, it has, and I think this is catch up for Manchester United. And listen, we've been there. We've looked at the gap between ourselves and Manchester United, and we've gone, oh my goodness, how are we going to bridge that? I've gone into every season, even when we were having difficult times, even when I was with Julia and Benitez and Rodgers, and thinking, we're better. We're going to be better than Manchester, and we're going to win the league. And find ourselves before Christmas. You're always lagging behind, but this seems as though it's catch up now for Manchester United. And I think the realisation for Manchester United fans, oh my goodness, how far adrift are we actually? Not just from Liverpool, but from a lot of other clubs, and that's the daunting thing. Yes, they can see Liverpool in the distance, but it's other clubs as well, and that is not what they're enjoying.
Do you see any signs of life, for any sense of hope for United fans under Solskjaer now, or is it all for a team obviously just 2 points above the relegation places at the minute, early in the season obviously, but is it all headed one direction for you?
It's not great, but I think people they have to stick by, Ollie. You can't just keep changing people, because even the likes of Everton with Marco Silva, because they've got money, they think, oh yeah, just get rid of the manager. We're having a little bit of a difficult time. They have to have a vision, and they have to stick with it. Other managers have just thrown money at it, not had a vision. At least with Ole, they've got a vision, and he can see what he wants, but it's going to take transfer windows, maybe not even 2. It's maybe going to take a little bit more, and there's maybe a little bit more hate still to come for the Manchester United fans. But that doesn't make it any easier this weekend for me as a Liverpool fan, because every dog has its day. And maybe it's this day, and you will know Manchester United fans and the players, they'll roll up the sleeves, they will make one Hercule massive effort to win this football match, and that's what worries me. And Man United fans will rejoice if it does go their way, and think, but I will be thinking, well, where's this been for the other 8 games this season? Why is it taking something like this for you to get up for it? Yeah. And that's where the disappointment for Manchester United fans will lie, hopefully.
Yeah, and any small advancements have been followed by a few steps back as well, we've seen over the last while. It is 4 years to the day, Phil, since Jurgen Klopp's first game in charge of Liverpool. It's so early in the season yet, but you've already mentioned what an incredible position Liverpool are in. Only 4 players from the squad that day 4 years ago survive in the Liverpool squad today. But how impressed have you been by what Jurgen Klopp has done at the club in those 4 years?
Well, it It is, and massive respect to Jurgen for what he's done. He has put the smiles back on faces, he has. But this was a vision. I can go back, not last October, but the October before, when Liverpool fans were on phone-ins calling for Jurgen's head. I don't know whether people will remember that, but I was thinking at the time, who and where would we get another manager of Jurgen Klopp's experience and vision than what we've got? And rightly we stuck by him, because it's not just Jurgen, it's the people behind him. Our owners have learned not to be impatient. They have a vision, they have a structure, they have a recruitment structure which is in place, and they've pushed it. They have a commercial drive which has pushed it for them. Everything about it has been perfect, not just Jurgen, but it is going in the right direction. And that's what I'm trying to say to the Manchester United fans, dare I say it, is that that's what they have to look at. But Liverpool, it didn't come straight away. Yes, we had near misses in cups, but they had this vision with Jurgen of where they're going, where they've looked for players, the right players, to take this club forward. So it has been absolutely wonderful. Dare I know that we've had a thing like sort of Manchester City with all their gazillions that they've got in front of them. But it's been wonderful with what Jurgen Klopp has done for our football club, and long may it continue, because that is where the vision lies. It has to continue. It's not just as we've had with Houllier, with Benitez, with Rodgers, a flirtation with it. We need this to be on a consistent basis, and this cycle, what we talk about, hopefully, is now our time.
Yeah, when you look at some of the troubles with some of the maybe really established managers in world football, like some of the old ones, the likes of Mourinho, maybe a little less so Zidane, Pep, obviously at the minute, you've some of the younger guns like Pochettino, Thomas Tuchel, some of these guys as well. But you look at survey the scene, I suppose, of managers at some of the top clubs around the world. Is Klopp the best manager in world club football for you at the minute?
Listen, I think Klopp has done wonders, even with Dortmund, what he did. Listen, I still even couldn't, with what Pep does and how he plays the game, I think is absolutely fantastic. So him and Pep and Klopp are terrific managers. They do it with a smile on the face most of the time. And I think that is the great thing. They connect with the people, which is another great thing. And yes, there's a few other managers who've their reputations have slipped just of late. They're still good managers. But I think the time for what Jurgen and Pep has brought to the Premier League has been nothing short of sensational. I think some of the other managers that you said will come back, but I think others are on the way.
Yeah. In terms of the game this weekend, I'm assuming that this morning's confirmation that it looks as though De Gea and Pogba are not going to be in that United team. I mean, you would have had plenty of reason for hope without that, but that I'm assuming means that it's almost job done for Liverpool this Sunday.
Well, no, I never believe it's job done. And as I explained to you before, this thing where some of the Manchester United players will turn up this weekend, I've no doubts. We still will be favourites, and I see that. But we have to turn up as well. I think if we turn up and Manchester United turn up, there's only one winner, and that's going to be Liverpool. So we have to make sure that we are right, focused. We go into it. It will be a cauldron. But I really do think that Liverpool will have a little bit too much for them on the day. And I do see a Liverpool victory. Nobody's going to be shocked by that. But I think Manchester United fans will be just hoping that their team does have a good performance.
Yeah, I think it certainly looks that way. Can I ask you one before we let you go, Phil, just in terms of the game this weekend? If Alisson was fit and was playing this weekend and all those other names we've mentioned, is there any player in that United squad that you'd put in the Liverpool team?
No. Not one. Not one. Not the way Matip's playing. I mean, Matip would be back, because Harry Maguire, I've great admiration for him, and I think he might have been one that might sneak in. But I think how Matip has performed sort of in the last third of last season and the start of this season, he has just been nothing short of sensational. And as partnerships go, him and Van Dijk have been brilliant. And I thought Gomez was going to be the way forward for Liverpool, but no, I'm sorry, there's no players that Manchester United would get in.
Yeah, for once it's hard to argue on that, Phil, and on your predicted outcome as well. Listen, enjoy the game of the weekend. Thanks, Willie, for taking the call.
Thanks, my pleasure. Have a good day.
Cheers, thanks a lot. Phil Thompson on the line there ahead of United Liverpool this weekend at Old Trafford. It's Sunday, it's 4:30. There's full, live and exclusive commentary and Off the Ball in the company of Nathan Murphy and Kevin Kilbane, bringing you all that Premier League goodness your way on Sunday afternoon. It's coming up on 9:10 on this Thursday morning. You're watching OTB AM. It's the Sports Breakfast Show from Off the Ball. We've still plenty to come. We're going to hear from Phil Egan with all the latest in live sport. We're back to Tokyo to talk to our own Eoin Sheahan, who's going to give us all the colour of this morning's press event with Joe Schmidt naming his team. And also on the way, one Risteards Gilroy.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
Fancy scoring free tickets to an incredible UEFA Champions League experience with Pepsi Max? Then show us your skills. Pepsi Max has 20 pairs up for grabs, and to be in with a chance to win, just pick up a Pepsi Max UEFA Champions League promotional pack in store. To enter, just post a video or pic of your best football trick with your promotional pack and share it on Pepsi Max Facebook or Instagram with hashtag for the love of it. See pepsimax.ie for details. Pepsi Max, maximum taste, no sugar.
OTB AM.
Okay, you're very welcome on to Off the Ball AM, OTB AM, if you're cool. Yeah, it's time for me to look sort of semi-interested, scratch my head, and look like I've just got out of bed, which is kind of the case, actually. We're talking rugby, which is the reason Matt Williams is on the line. Hey, Matt, how are you?
Mate, that was a wonderful introduction. You're an outstanding human being.
Yeah, Matt, do Ireland have the player? I mean, preparing this for like 4 years, so it's not like we haven't had time, but do Ireland have the players to beat New Zealand? Really?
Mate, we definitely have the players. We have unbelievable players. I'm sure Joe Schmidt won't mind my saying I coached Leinster not so long ago and paved the way for some players who'll be on duty on Saturday. Now, that has no relevance to your question, but that isn't going to stop me from saying it.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Japan, so expressive and, throwing the ball around. I mean, Japan are pretty special though, right?
Mate, I think they're unbelievable. An unbelievable tournament, an unbelievable country, and an unbelievable rugby team. I take huge pleasure in watching those little Japanese guys play, run around and patronise the shit out of them.
Who have you been most impressed with on the Irish team? There's some good performances, right? I mean, who's your kind of standout players ever? Right.
I've got to say, I'd have to say Tyke Byrne, or Burnsy as I call him.
All right. Oh, do you know him well?
No, mate, I've never actually met him, but we've got to get Burnsy more involved. He's an exceptional talent on the ball, over the ball, and on each side of the ball.
What does that mean? What does that mean, like each side of the ball? What does that mean?
That doesn't matter, Jared, or seeing as we've known each other for 5 minutes, I should really be calling you Gilly.
Okay. I think.
Gilly, mate, we have wonderful human beings playing rugby union for our country. Let's not forget that. But we need front foot, go forward ball for our immensely talented backs who are not being used by this failed coach.
Yeah. Yeah, well, surely you can't say he's failed, and you can't say Joe Schmidt. I got failure, he's failed. Failed.
You can if you're as obscenely jealous of him as I am.
So, who are the players would you say he's not using? I mean, is he, what's he not doing, or who's he not using?
Mate, we need go forward to get our halfbacks, Murr and Sexto, to control the game. We need to get Earlsey involved. Carbs, when he comes off the bench, Geordie Lama, or Lams as I call him, Andy Conway, and of course not forgetting Robbie Carney and Jakey Stockdale.
Jakey? Jakey?
Gilly, mate, not even his own family call him Jakey, but we've got a sort of unspoken special bond.
So when you say unspoken, does that mean...
We've never actually spoken?
Yeah.
Yes, it does mean that.
All right. It's time to wrap it up, Matt. Now it's time for me to look into the camera and try and say something cool and off the cuff, but I can't really think of anything, so I'll just say thanks, Matt. Thanks. Go back to bed. I'm exhausted after that. Could I just move in here? It'd be a lot easier, wouldn't it? Just get a bed over there.
It's some good stuff. That is the latest offering from Risteards Rugger thing with Risteard Cooper and Gilly, as I think we're all going to have to refer to him now around the office. It is all with thanks to Vodafone Rugby, Team of Us, everyone in. And speaking of which, Eoin Sheahan, good morning to you.
Very good morning, Adrian. How are you keeping?
Where are you?
I'm at the team hotel here in Chiba, just outside Disneyland. This is the Hilton. This is where the Irish team are staying for the next couple of days. I'm not actually quite sure what happens if they win on Saturday today. They move somewhere else today, so they move somewhere different. But for now, they're here. They've been here on the fringe of Disneyland. You have to get on the Disneyland Express to get out here for the last couple of days. Obviously, they're here one less day than they thought they would. They were supposed to be up in Fukuoka, I think, on Sunday, but obviously things changed with the weather and all that. But we're here now, and everybody's pretty well prepared, I think, and they're ready to have a go to the All Blacks this weekend.
Yeah, give us a bit of a flavour of the reaction to that team that's been named. Obviously, this morning, there's some conservatism about it, if you want to use that word. What's the reaction been there like?
I think it's as expected. I don't think anybody actually expected him to take the plunge and put Jordan Larmour into the starting 15 against the All Blacks in a World Cup quarter-final. He had suggested it earlier in the week that Larmour had obviously done very well, but you kind of got a sense from Schmidt's tone that Rob Kearney, fitness pending, he would be going straight back into the team, and he looks like he's fit. He looks like he's ready to go. He's played in this tournament. He was obviously just rested last weekend, so he's back. And I don't think there's any surprise there, Adrian. I think with the Bundy Aki situation then as well, the midfield was sort of picked for him, and that's basically it. I mean, there was no other questions really. The midfield was always going to be the question mark throughout the tournament, but in some ways, Aki's suspension made that selection dilemma not a dilemma at all. It's pretty clear that Chris Barrett is the third choice midfielder. Yeah. Do you know what, Owen? Your line there is a bit like your hand. It's not what we might normally expect it to be. And we might just wrap that up there and try and re-establish some sort of a decent line with you. See if we can get that sorted and come back. It's Eoin Sheahan live on the line there from Chiba, as he said, just outside Tokyo, ahead of the game this weekend. Was in situ for the press conference, obviously, this morning. Phil Egan is on the way. He's going to give us his prediction for the game at the weekend. He's also going to tell us everything that's happening in the world of live sport this morning as well. But yesterday, on Off the Ball, this is a 20-minute chat that you may have seen yesterday. If not, do go and check it out. It's up on offtheball.com. It's also a rugby piece. It was Jamie Heaslip who's just released his new book in partnership with Matt Cooper, All In, and he spoke yesterday to Johnny Ward and Jamie, obviously. He asked Jamie, the big question, is that new podcast on the cards?
Are you going to start a podcast? Honestly, Jamie, I want to know. I'm involved in podcasts. I advise you against them. It's a crowded marketplace. I would certainly not ask your Twitter followers. Do we have the caption there?
Oh, yeah.
I think we do.
Yeah. Where is it?
Should I start a podcast? Jamie Heaslip. Yes, 18%. No, 82%. The beauty of this poll, if I put up a poll on Twitter, I put it up for a day so that if it's going wrong, there's a short shelf life. But yours was up for a few days.
Sure, look, I mean...
Is that a yes or a no?
If I took the opinion of what people say on social media of what I should do, I wouldn't be technically, from what they tell me, I shouldn't be alive.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
You've had massive promotion for your podcast if it doesn't happen. Or
if it doesn't happen, if anything, I should probably just do it just to annoy people now, and at least they download the first episode, probably.
Yeah.
Or maybe, I don't know.
It's like the guy from the newsletter. He brought out the book on the DUP and the Cash for Ash scandal, and the DUP immediately started kind of threatening kind of legal action. And he's like, I've already gotten the best promotion. My sales have skyrocketed. So, Jamie, your promotion is there. Yes or no?
Well,
are you going to bring out a podcast?
You know what I like?
I want an exclusive.
Okay, well, the reason
Buy the book, right?
The reason I asked about it was or anything, all these different channels, social media included, podcasts included. I love the fact that you can cut out the middleman now, and your voice goes straight to the person that wants to listen.
Mm-hmm. There you have it. Jamie Heaslip in conversation with Johnny Ward yesterday. You can check out that full interview, all 20 minutes of it, up on offtheball.com. Eoin Sheahan, come on back in. I think we have
sounding good, lads. I hope
a better line, much better, far better. Quinny was telling us earlier on that the Irish contingent around Tokyo has gone up massively over the last little while. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I guess I have. It's comparing it with Tokyo at the start of the tournament, and there was really nobody noticeable around at all. It was only when you went to Yokohama on game day. I'm not exactly going to say that the place is brimming with people in green jerseys or Irish-looking people, but I guess there is a few around. I haven't noticed it clearly to the same level that Alan is noticing it. I'm not sure where he's staying, but I'm inside in the city centre near Shinjuku, so wandering around kind of like the main parts of Tokyo. Haven't seen too many, but as tends to happen on match week, it tends to go up and up and up. And the day before the game, there's a big influx, and then match day, I just think there's a lot of people who just travel into the cities or wherever they may be for match day, and that's kind of almost the start of their stint in a certain place. So expect it to be fairly packed this weekend. I'd also expect people to be just flying in today. Like, there's a lot of people who are around Japan over the last couple of weeks, but people who would have optimistically predicted that they'd be playing on Sunday, well, at least they're still on this weekend, but they're on Saturday, and people will be flying in. Like, this is the whole other situation that we have. The tickets situation is a bit of a crisis for a lot of Irish fans, I'd imagine, because it's just, I've been speaking to a few Japanese people, a few Japanese journalists, a few Japanese people who've been speaking to a lot of Irish fans themselves, and everybody seems to be of the same opinion that the Japanese rugby fans want to go and watch the All Blacks play rugby on Saturday night, so they've got not much interest in actually trading their tickets. So it's a bit unfortunate, and there will be Irish who will miss out on Saturday night, whether or not now they'll actually go along on Sunday. If expected if Ireland win, and that there's still more rugby to look forward to, they'll probably go along on Sunday. But then again, like, it's South Africa versus the Japanese, and I swear, like, the atmosphere down in Shizuoka was the best atmosphere I've possibly ever witnessed at a sporting event in terms of pure noise from a home crowd. Like, if you have a ticket for that and you can't get a trade, it's not a bad backup plan. But obviously, you see how it's on Ireland. If you're Irish and it's flown all this way, it's a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, all right, well, look, at that line is disappearing as and again, so you go and enjoy the next little while, get yourself set for the one thing that, as always this weekend, when Ireland are playing at the Rugby World Cup in Japan, that everybody's looking forward to is whatever happens in the game, your dispatch afterwards. So go and give that some consideration and planning, the due consideration and planning on that it deserves over the next while.
Yeah, exactly. Putting the head down, doing a bit of study. I'm not going to promise anything this weekend. Tokyo's a big city. It's hard to. It's usually kind of like.
No. Don't be getting your excuses in.
Well, I'll try my best to scour one of the biggest cities in the world then for some Irish fans on Sunday night or Saturday night.
You haven't.
So hopefully.
You haven't failed to deliver yet, Owen, so hopefully you catch up with Gilly at some point and the 2E get stuck into those Irish fans, those Irish fans after the game. Good luck.
It's amazing when
go on.
I just got like, when I'm tuned in here, I can't actually see the video. And when Matt Williams and Gerard were being played out there, I legitimately thought it was Gerard Matt Williams. Just for a split second, the impression is that good. It's even better if you close your eyes.
He's good. He's very good. Good luck.
Good luck.
He's a great human being, as Matt would say.
Yeah, I was impressed.
Yeah, he's bloody impressive, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, that's the story with that. We've just been talking to Phil Thompson about the football on Sunday, Manchester United against Liverpool. I would imagine that in October 2019, this is not a fixture that strikes fear into the heart of Liverpool aficionados.
I'd beg to differ now. Because
come on now.
It's
really?
Possibly one of the worst United teams Liverpool will face.
Yeah.
But United are in such a bad position at the moment. They can actually play a home game like an away game, just sit in and basically say to Liverpool, see, can you break us down?
Which is what they'll do this weekend.
Which is what they'll do, and United supporters at Old Trafford and watching the game or listening to the game will be quite happy with that. And if they get a draw, they'd be absolutely delighted. Because they would stop Liverpool's winning run. If they somehow manage to win, it would be it would make their season, because that is how bad it's got now.
I mean, I don't see any case for that eventuality. When Phil was on, do you?
I don't think they are going to win, but I could certainly see United frustrating Liverpool enough that maybe they could get a draw.
Maybe
where
it might only be 3-0 sort of thing.
You're depending on Liverpool's front three to click, and they don't always click away from home. And we don't know if Salah's going to play. I know Mane and Firmino were playing against each other on international duty, but they've actually been rested for the last few days. And Firmino came off in that game last season, and Klopp threw on Sturridge. Klopp approached that game with a bit too much, like, not fear, but like he was just a bit apprehensive. And
the 0-0.
Yeah, he started Milner instead of Trent Alexander-Arnold at right back. And I think, look, at this stage we're gone beyond the, sometimes Trent Alexander-Arnold might get caught out defensively because he's just so good going forward. And okay, 2 seasons ago, Marcus Rashford got the better of him on a couple of occasions to score 2 goals, but that was a much different Marcus Rashford. And from what I remember, both those goals came from long balls punted at Romelu Lukaku, and Lukaku actually cleverly was able to pull himself onto Lovren rather than stay away from Van Dijk. But it's just, I think it's going to be a case of United sit in, Liverpool have to break them down. Now, if Liverpool can score early, then you worry for United. But the longer it goes on, the more United will fancy. Maybe we can actually nick something.
I asked Phil when he was on, if Alisson were fit and everybody was fit, how many of that United squad would you put in the Liverpool team?
I think the only one I could argue for, and people might be surprised by this, but Pogba. Because what we see of Pogba at United, I'm going to go back to what Damien Delaney said a few weeks ago when he described Pogba as a joiner inner. So could you imagine Pogba playing in this buzzing Liverpool team? He'd be loving it because things are going well. And I fully agreed with Damien when he said that when things are going bad, then Pogba all of a sudden doesn't want to know. But he'd want to know all about it in this Liverpool team. So he'd actually work in that 4-3-3 with Liverpool, where he could play as one of the more advanced, where Fabinho would sit. But other than that, then De Gea's form has been patchy, so you can't make that case anymore.
If Alisson is fit, you go with him.
Alisson's just been a bit more solid than De Gea. So that's it then.
Phil danced around Harry Maguire a small bit and then ultimately said no.
Possibly. But I suppose Harry Maguire would look even better playing beside Van Dijk. But that's really it. That's all you can make the case for.
What are you kicking us off with?
Well, obviously we'll start with the rugby because, I feel it's going to step up a notch this weekend with the quarterfinals. I think the one I'm looking forward to the most, not that I'm not looking forward to the Ireland game, but can you really enjoy the Ireland game given the emotional attachment you have to it? England-Australia. That's the first game of the weekend, 8:15 kick-off on Saturday. But in terms of the Irish team, as expected, 3 changes from last week's win over Samoa. Rob Kearney, Peter O'Mahony and Gary Ringrose all in. Jordan Larmour is on the bench. Brodie Retallick is back in the All Blacks team. He's only played half an hour at the tournament so far, named in the second row. Probably no surprise either that Bowden Barrett is going to play at fullback, so Richie Mo'unga will start at out half, and if things aren't going well, they can call upon the likes of Sonny Bill Williams, who's on the bench. George Ford is not in the England team. That's a surprise. They're playing obviously Australia, as I mentioned. He started every game at the World Cup, and they were playing Owen Farrell in the centre, but Farrell is now switched to 10, and Henry Slade comes into centre to partner Manu Tuilagi. Both Billy and Mako Vunipola are fit. George Cruz drops to the bench, so Courtney Laws starts in his place. The Australian team is just in. They've sprung a surprise in the centre. 19-year-old Jordan Pataya is going to start. It's just his 3rd test cap.
Right.
And he's going to be in there with his Queensland Red teammate Samuel Karevi in midfield. Will Genia gets the nod at scrum half ahead of Nick White, and Curtly Beale starts at fullback. He's passed his concussion protocols. So that's the team news from the first 2 quarterfinals of this weekend. I said, the England-Australia one I think is going to be...
It's going to be an absolute belter. I think England are going to get it done. I think that Australia have shown so many frailties. To be fair, they've at least drawn with the All Blacks, maybe beaten them over the last while as well.
Yeah.
But I still think England have too much. Odd for me that I know Quinny was saying they've probably gone back to what would be their perceived strongest 15, but odd for me that they've ditched the Ford, Farrell, dual player situation.
Yeah, absolutely. But
dual playmaker situation.
Yeah, Australia have shown that they can, when they're good, they can be very good, especially like the second half against Wales. They were very close to turning that around. They have beaten the All Blacks in the recent Rugby Championship. Now they got walloped the following week. Now, also bear in mind, New Zealand had a player sent off in that game. But yeah, as I said, it kind of steps up a notch. Ireland's Shannon McCurdy won a silver medal last night on the opening day of the European Track Cycling Championships in the Netherlands. The 10k 40-lap race was won by Emily Nelson of Great Britain, and people are wondering who Shannon McCurdy is. She was born in Melbourne to Irish parents, first female track cyclist to compete at the Olympic Games from representing Ireland, and that was in Rio in 2016. Some sad news from the world of boxing. Patrick Day passed away at the age of 27, just 4 days after he suffered a brain injury in his fight against Charles Conwell in Chicago. This was on the undercard of the Alexander Usyk heavyweight debut against Chaz Witherspoon. Actually, Portlaoise's TJ Doheny was on this card as well. So Day was taken to hospital after he was knocked out in the 10th round. He left the ring on a stretcher, but unfortunately, there was a lot of news circulating in the last few days he wasn't going to make it, and our worst news was confirmed last night, and promoter Lou DiBella says that he died surrounded by his family and his close friends. And Charles Conwell, who obviously was his opponent, wrote an emotional letter today after the fight, saying that he never wanted this to happen today. All he wanted to do was win. And he went on to say if he could take it all back, he would. No one deserves this to happen to them. And it's awful news. And you obviously feel for the family of Patrick Day. And I can only imagine what's going through the head of Charles Conwell, who went in.
That's very tough.
As he said, he went in to win a fight, and now the guy that he fought is no longer here. So
that's shocking. It was funny, even looking. Funny is definitely not the right word. Looking at the Paddy Donovan fight, as brief as it was, on Saturday,
last Friday
night.
Yeah.
His opponent Lopez had been down for quite a while afterwards, and there was like a little bit of a concern for him. And you can easily, like, it is a pretty brutal sport at times, where even the position with which Paddy Donovan had caught him with that left jab was quite high in the head, and you don't know how.
If it could be soft part, because some people would look at that punch and think, how did it cause such damage?
You had to look back at it quite a few times to see even if it had landed.
But we actually, Andy was talking about it obviously on Off the Brawl this week, and he just said there's just certain parts where if you get hit, you mightn't think the punch looks like as devastating as something that lands on the chin, but there's just certain parts. But it hammers home how brutal a sport it is, and that's why anyone that goes into the ring and climbs between the ropes, you have to have the ultimate respect for them. So just awful news. Just finish up with the golf, Adrian. Graham McDowell in a share of 9th place on 4 under after his first round at the CJ Cup in South Korea. The home favourite Ben An leads by 1 on 8 under, and Gavin Moynihan is 1 under after 5 at the French Open in Paris. Paul Dunn par at the first. Former Masters champion Trevor Immelman is one of the 4 players in a share of the lead on 2 under par.
Thanks a million, Phil. That's it for OTB AM this morning, but do stay tuned if you're listening at the Go Loud app or the website. We've plenty more coming your way, but for this AM, that's pretty much it. Do stay tuned to all our channels over the course of the day. If you've missed anything as well from OTB AM this morning, with Alan Quinlan on the reaction to that Ireland team naming this morning. Joe Schmidt spoke ahead of the All Blacks game, of course, as well. Phil Thompson said he wouldn't but one single Manchester United player in that Liverpool team ahead of the, inverted commas, derby game on Sunday. Full live and exclusive commentary and Off the Ball for that as well. We the sports pages as well. Myself and Tommy picked through those a bit earlier on, so you can check all of that out and catch the podcast back on offtheball.com/podcasts, or indeed on the Go Loud app. Watch it back on the YouTube channel as well, and hit subscribe there to get up to speed with all of our latest publications as they land. Tonight, by the way, must remind you of this on Off the Ball. From 7 o'clock, we're going to have the very first play of our Heineken Roadshow special. The former South Africa captain Bobby Skinstad on living through apartheid. Michael Lynagh on breaking Irish hearts at the 1991 World Cup. Paul Howard reveals which Leinster and Ireland players inspired Russell Carroll Kelly. That one definitely worth tuning in for. And Danny O'Reilly from the Coronas admits that he once drunk texted Joe Schmidt, Osquelga. So another story definitely worth tuning in for this evening. Brian O'Driscoll, Keith Wood and Big Mal O'Kelly, and plenty more as well. We'll also have John Giles and Dan McDonald as well in studio talking all things football. I'm sure we'll touch on that grim game on Tuesday night as well with the lads. So we'll see you tomorrow morning. Myself and Nathan, OTB AM from 7:30. We'll be joined by Kevin Kilban, Ronan O'Gara and much, much more. Good morning to you.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.